Chapter 164. November 5th, Thursday, the third day of the study trip. Early in the morning, it was quiet all around. Toru Watanabe woke up. Before he could open his eyes, his hand had already touched Miki Kujo's slippery and warm body. Miki Kujo groaned in dissatisfaction, unconsciously pushed him away and turned her back. Toru Watanabe leaned on her and hugged her from behind. Miki Kujo didn't escape this time. She adjusted her position in his arms and continued to sleep peacefully. At this time, Toru Watanabe opened his eyes. The faint light of the morning sun shone through the curtains. The Nine Beauties' skin was so soft, it could even be said to be crystal clear. Toru Watanabe only needed to lightly suck and it would leave a purple mark, because it wouldn't fade for a long time. After the first time, Miki Kujo didn't allow him to do it again. After a while, Miki Kujo slowly opened her eyes. "What time is it?" 5:30. "Is it still raining?" "I don't know when it will stop." Miki Kujo closed her eyes again. There was still half an hour before she returned to Tokyo. Just as she was about to sleep for a while, she suddenly felt Toru Watanabe's hand moving around. Thinking that he was being naughty again, she took her hand out of the quilt. "What are you doing?" She opened her eyes impatiently. What she saw was Toru Watanabe's slender left hand with clear joints. His fingernails were neatly trimmed at her request. He stared at his hand for a whole day without any problems. Between his ring finger and index finger, there was a strand of hair slightly thicker than hair. It was slightly curly and slightly short. "Yours?" Toru Watanabe looked at her. "Are you blind? It's obvious that it's yours," Kujio Miki said in annoyance. "No, no, no." Toru Watanabe shook his head seriously. "This color is obviously yours." "Color?" Miki Kujo looked carefully and didn't find any difference. "Do you want to compare it?" Toru Watanabe said as he tried to crawl under the quilt. "Are you crazy?" Miki Kujo scolded and took the quilt away and wrapped it around herself. "If you want to compare it with yours." "No, this kind of thing has to be clear," Toru Watanabe said as he got up and pressed on top of Miki Kujo. Wrapped in the blanket, Jioju Meiji looked up at him with her beautiful eyes. She looked very cute, but also a little pitiful. He threw the curly hair in his hand and kissed her. Miki Kujo was dressed by the bedside. "How about you stay here and come back with me the day after tomorrow?" Toru Watanabe was lying on the bed and playing with the hem of her dress. Miki Kujo's face was still red and her voice was flirtatious. She glanced at him and said, "There's a price to pay for enjoying power and wealth. I'm the only one left in the main Kujo family. If I stay with you every day, some people will take advantage of me. That's too tiring. Do you need help?" Toru Watanabe asked. "Sure." "Didn't you want to be the premier? I can give it to you after I get a seat in the 2nd district of Kanagawa Prefecture." "No, I'm kidding. My dream is to retire at 25. Change that dream of yours. Give me the socks." Toru Watanabe found the socks and handed them to her. While Miki Kujo was doing her hair, Toru Watanabe got off the bed and began putting on his clothes. In the end, he was even faster than she was. Shizuru and the chauffeur were already waiting at the door. Toru Watanabe hugged Miki Kujo for a while longer before letting her get in the car. Miki Kujo rested her hands on the armrest and closed her eyes. When the car was driving on the Takeido, she said, "Have the people from Iwate Prefecture retreat." "Miss," Shizuru said in a low voice, "a high school student with such skills. You've seen the video of him practicing with guns. Also, why did he coincidentally appear at Imperial Tea House? I think it's prudent for you to keep him by your side." "There's no need." Kujio Miki, whose eyes were still closed, interrupted her. Shizuru wanted to persuade her again, but when she looked up, she noticed that the young miss who never wore any accessories suddenly had a ring on her left hand. "Yesterday, there was nothing there." "Yes." She lowered her head again. Watching the car disappear at the end of the street, Toru Watanabe didn't turn back to the hotel. Instead, he ran along the deserted Sananaka in the early morning. It was foggy, the shops were closed, and there were raindrops on the bluestone road. Only 2 photographers were taking pictures. Toru Watanabe ran through the deserted street. He ran past Sananaka, Shimizu, Kimono Rental Shop, Plum Blossom Hall, and finally, Kiyomizu Temple. This was only a warm-up. Turning right, Asahi Hall, Okamoto Fabric Store, Saisha Nunnery. Finally, he ran in the direction of Sananaka. The route was a triangular distance of 1,500 meters, and he ran 3 laps. Rin Kiyono walked into the restaurant, chose breakfast, and sat down at an empty table. She drank a mouthful of steaming miso soup. She always thought that waking up early in the morning with a warm miso soup was a happy thing. While eating tuna sprinkled with mashed yam and seaweed, Aoi Ichiki and Yoshimi Tamamo came over and sat down next to her. Next to actually meant that they were separated by 1 person. Her personal space was much larger than the average person's. Last night, the girls in my class had a pillow fight. Aoi Ichiki excitedly said, more than a dozen people, more than 30 pillows, it was so intense. Kobayashi was directly knocked down. Ha ha ha. Sounds like fun. Yoshimi Tamamo enviously said. Doesn't your class have any activities? Ghost stories. Aoi Ichiki was interested and said, I like ghost stories the most. I often play ghost games at night. Yoshimi Tamamo's body trembled as if she was afraid. I can't stand it. After saying that, she asked Rin Kiyono, who was focused on eating, Kiyono classmate, do you like ghost stories? I haven't seen it before. Rin Kiyono felt that it was like tuna, so she turned to eat the grilled fish. The grilled fish was not as good as yesterday's grilled fish. By the way, Kiyono classmate, do you have any plans today? Aoi Ichiki asked carefully. I plan to walk alone. I want to take a look at the path of philosophy. Rin Kiyono replied. I'll go with you. Thank you, Tamamo classmate, but there's no need. Why? I like to be alone. Okay. Yoshimi Tamamo pursed her lips and stirred the miso soup without appetite. Aoi Ichiki originally wanted to invite Rin Kiyono to find my senior together, but when she saw that Yoshimi Tamamo was the first to admit defeat, she immediately lost the courage to ask. Yesterday was a group activity set by the school, but today was a free day. Aoi Ichiki and Yoshimi Tamamo were talking about last night's supernatural story when a person walked over. Good morning, Kiyono classmate. The person sat down next to Rin Kiyono. They were really next to each other, but their bodies were not touching. Aoi Ichiki looked at Rin Kiyono with disgust and said, You reek of sweat. Please stay away from me, Watanabe classmate. That's right. Yoshimi Tamamo said exaggeratedly as she pinched her nose. Aoi Ichiki secretly sniffed. There was a slight smell of sweat, but there wasn't any strange smell. When she thought about how this smell came from the handsome Kun Watanabe, she didn't feel any disgust at all. Did Kun Watanabe go for a run? She asked curiously. Yeah, I have a habit of running in the morning. Toru Watanabe answered as he drank his miso soup. You also run in the morning while studying? If I can run in the morning while studying, then what can't I do? I motivate myself like this. What can't you do? For example, take a shower after your morning run. Rin Kiyono reminded him in a cold voice. I'm afraid that by the time I finish my shower, you'll already be out. Huh? Why isn't this grilled fish as good as yesterday's? Toru Watanabe quickly finished the grilled fish in 2 or 3 bites. I'm going to Uji in a bit to visit Uji's Wind Instrument Club. Come with me. I'm not going. Rin Kiyono took small bites of the fish cake. Why? I'm the one who should ask you why. I want to go to the path of philosophy by myself. Don't go, come with me to Uji. What's the reason? Kumiko invited me to visit her school. It wouldn't be good for a guy like me to meet 2 girls like Kumiko and Lena. This kind of thing can't be avoided even if it's a guy. The only girl who can accompany me is you. Please. Tora A. Rin. The two of them talked back and forth. Aoi Ichiki and Yoshimi Tamamo didn't have any room to interrupt. It was the first time they met someone who dared to talk to Kiyono like this. Obviously, the two of them didn't talk much in the Wind Instrument Club. Let's go there. Lead the way. Toru Watanabe waved his hand generously. The two walked across the zebra crossing without traffic lights, entered a quaint alley, and entered a traditional Japanese courtyard. This courtyard was the Nakamura Fujiyoshi's shop. Opening the linen door with the shop name printed on it, they walked through a short passage paved with dark brown wooden boards and saw a small but exquisite open-air Japanese courtyard. Walking along the stone path, they arrived at the dining area of the shop. There were several long wooden benches beside the stone path. Thanks to Miss Kiyono, who finally knew about the food app, the two made an appointment early and did not need to queue for a number. They ordered matcha ice cream, matcha cake, matcha smoothie, matcha buckwheat cold noodles, matcha papaya. Anyway, they were all matcha. Matcha ice cream, placed in a thick bamboo tube, paired with white glutinous rice balls and red bean paste. The layers were distinct and the texture was rich. Matcha cake, matcha and chocolate flavored, paired with sweet cream and ice cream. Matcha smoothie, snow white and fluffy smoothie with matcha juice, and then… Okay. Toru Watanabe interrupted Rin Kiyono's explanation. I'm not interested in matcha, and I don't pursue this kind of knowledge. It's hard to believe that there are people who hate matcha, Rin Kiyono said in surprise as she put the spoon full of smoothie into her mouth. If you say that, most of the guys are not human. Rin Kiyono ignored him. After finishing her first bite, she passed the rest of the smoothie to him. Thank you, but I'm not eating, Toru Watanabe said. Do you think I can eat so much by myself? Then you order. Can't I order? Of course you can. You should at least be useful. Don't think that just because you're handsome, you can do whatever you want. If you don't work hard, even if you're Watanabe, you'll be eliminated by society sooner or later. Rin Kiyono said. It's just eating matcha, is it necessary? Haven't you read Rabindranath Tagore before? God's great authority is in the gentle breeze, not in the storm. Success or failure depends on the details. Watanabe classmate, you can't just read a book. Without thinking and summarizing, no matter how many books you read, it's still eat, I'll eat. Toru Watanabe picked up his spoon and scooped a big mouthful of smoothie into his mouth. The bittersweet coldness spread in his mouth. Rin Kiyono nodded with satisfaction, took a new spoon, and ate the matcha cake. Is it good? She asked. It's a little bitter. Toru Watanabe scooped another mouthful. But when I think about how Kiyono classmate ate it, maybe they're still… Shut up. Rin Kiyono said with a straight face. Eat your food. She used a new spoon and only ate one mouthful. There was no way there would be anything of hers on it. This guy liked to talk nonsense all day long. After finishing the matcha cake, under Rin Kiyono's suggestion, Toru Watanabe bought matcha chocolate, matcha cake, and matcha candies as a meeting gift for Kumiko. There was still some time before noon, so the two decided to walk to Hokuji. After turning left and right for about 20 minutes, they finally saw their destination. No wonder I like Hokuji so much. Is it because of Kosaka-san's breasts? Rin Kiyono asked, panting. Am I such a shallow person? Then isn't the reason I went to Kamigawa all because of your legs? Take a good look at where we are now. Rin Kiyono lowered her head. Under their feet was a long slope, and Hokuji High School was halfway up the slope. I finally understand why most girls in Hokuji have thicker legs than girls in Kamigawa. Just like scions, they live on a planet with gravity 10 times higher than Earth. Even if their physique is the same, they are still stronger than Earthlings. Unfortunately, people like me from the Frisia clan have the second transformation, which is enough to make them despair. It's just that to conserve energy, I usually take the form of an ordinary Earthling. Rin Kiyono could no longer hear Toru Watanabe's nonsense. I shouldn't have come to Hokuji for mat cha. This was the only thought in her mind when she was too tired to think. Chapter 165. The automatic pencil slid across the notebook, writing down one English word after another. Curved lines flowed, while straight lines were brisk. Kuei liked the smoothness of solving problems and the clarity of her brain. After finishing last year's exam, she picked up the red-covered reference book beside her and corrected the answers. The accuracy rate was good, and the deviation was about 72.9. She stretched and prepared to rest for a while before correcting her mistakes. She tiredly supported her chin with her right hand and stared blankly at the blue sky outside the window. She looked down and saw Hokuyu-ji's field. At noon, there were only a few boys from the sports club on the field. They were playing basketball during their lunch break. Kuei thought about herself. Until she was promoted to the third year of high school, she had been a member of the blowing club. In order to cope with the heavy entrance exams and not repeat the failure of the middle school exams, she chose to leave the club despite her junior and good friend, Kumiko Owami. Hokuyu-ji's blowing club was not worth mentioning. Although it was once glorious, it had long been reduced to a third-rate club that couldn't even qualify for the Kyoto competition. This was before the spring of this year. Kuei picked up an eraser with her free left hand and unconsciously rolled it between her index and middle fingers. Outside the window, the white clouds in the sky looked like the body of a tenor saxophone. Now, Hokuyu-ji's blowing club had won the Kyoto competition and played a miraculous sound in the Kansai competition. Although they only received a bronze medal from the national competition, they were already the talk of the school. The principal even praised them in the meeting. Next year, Hokuyu-ji's enrollment would be more popular because of them. She had already been in the blowing club for 2 years. If she persisted in the third year, Kuei stopped rolling the eraser and laughed at herself. It was impossible. She was not the vice head of the blowing club, Asaka Tanaka, who was also a third year, who was regarded as a special existence by others. She had an outstanding appearance, excellent leadership skills, and a bass trumpet that was not at the level of a strong school. Yet, she squeezed into the top 30 in the country in the mock exam. How could there be such a perfect person in the world? Kuei thought about her mock exam results. There was still a certain distance between her goal and the private university. For an ordinary person like her, it was impossible for her to attend to club activities and study hard at the same time. After letting her imagination run wild for a while, Kuei stretched her arms and prepared to continue studying. At this moment, the corner of his eyes swept across the field. On the path leading from the school gate to the school dormitory, a familiar figure came into view. Kumiko? Why did he go there at noon? Even if the competition was over, other than the third years who were preparing for the entrance exam, the playing section should continue practicing. While she was thinking about these unimportant questions, the two figures beside Kumiko attracted her attention. In winter, Kida Yuji's uniform was a long-sleeved sailor suit. Wearing Western school uniforms, the two of them were like sunflowers that attracted bees. Kuei, who had been to Nagoya to watch the national competition, recognized the two men. He was an unparalleled genius in the oboe and the first high school conductor in the history of the blowing competition. First and second place in the national mock exam of year 1. Her looks were impeccable. He had countless advantages. Even Asaka Tanaka, the special existence of Hokuyu Haru, appeared ordinary before the two of them. Why would they appear in Bayou City at this time? Kumiko, who was carrying a gift, looked at the surrounding students with a bitter smile. There were boys and girls, seniors and juniors. In the distance, students were peeking out from the windows of each class. Forget it. The point was, Watanabe, can you stop smiling? Kumiko complained. I can't help but smile when I see an old friend. But you, Kumiko, please tell me, why are you not happy at all when you see me from 400 kilometers away? I'm happy. But, if you go on like this, I'll be surrounded by the whole school after you leave. That's your problem, isn't it? Please solve it yourself. What did you say? Kumiko asked in disbelief. I'm just joking. Don't mind it. In Kamigawa, I only dare to smile at my girlfriend and Kiyono. But in Bayou City, I'm only here for lunch, so I can smile without caring about the consequences. Think about it, everyone is mesmerized by me, but in the blink of an eye, they won't be able to see me anymore. Don't you think that's very youthful? I just feel that you have a very, very bad personality. A person who directly says that someone has a bad personality is the one with a bad personality, right? Yes, yes, yes. Kumiko weakly brushed off Toru Watanabe and gave up trying to persuade him to stop smiling. She looked at Rin Kiyono, who was still gasping for breath, and comforted her. Kiyono-san, we'll be in the music room soon. You can rest soon. Thank you, Rin Kiyono said with great difficulty. But how did you get this? Toru Watanabe picked up the school admission permit on his chest. Kumiko proudly puffed out her chest a little. Matsumoto Michiko-sensei is the assistant consultant of the wind instrument department, and she's also my class teacher. I told her that I'd like to invite you to the wind instrument department for an exchange, and she immediately agreed. The female teacher, who looked very strict, but after the competition, she hugged her student and cried. How did you know? Kumiko looked at Toru Watanabe in surprise. Of course I saw it. Wasn't I there? Liar. How can a human have such a good memory? Kiyono-san, cheer up. Toru Watanabe turned his head and looked at Rin Kiyono, who was in so much pain that she was about to close her eyes. Someone said that we're not human. Shut up. Rin Kiyono finally couldn't take it anymore. She stretched out her hand and gently pulled Toru Watanabe's sleeve, transferring some of the gravity to him. Toru Watanabe pulled the school uniform jacket that slid down to his shoulders and said to Kumiko, "Can we find a place to rest first?" Kumiko looked at Rin Kiyono with worry and surprise. She didn't expect someone to be so weak. She thought for a moment. The shoe cabinet seems to be okay. The three of them walked into the school building, changed into indoor shoes, and stopped at the vending machine. From time to time, girls holding hands would pass by them, and when they were far away, they would immediately whisper to each other. There were also boys who were chasing each other and deliberately talking loudly in front of Rin Kiyono. "What do you want to drink?" Kumiko asked. "I'll do it." Toru Watanabe took out the 10-yen coins that he had accumulated during this time and inserted them one by one into the coin slot. Kumiko knew that this guy was very rich. She only had 3,000 yen a month, so she chose to accept. Toru Watanabe first ordered strawberry milk for himself, then asked for hot tea for Rin Kiyono. He said to Kumiko, "I don't know what you like to drink, so you can order it yourself." How could I? Kumiko's hand was already on the most expensive drink button. "I've always wanted to try it. Even so, I still have some left. Give Reina and me another bottle." Toru Watanabe unscrewed the cap of the hot tea and handed it to Rin Kiyono, who was resting with her eyes closed. Rin Kiyono opened her eyes and took small sips. "If you say that, Lena will definitely scold you." Kumiko bought Lena a cup of wheat tea, but there are boys who like strawberry milk. In the process of learning, the body will want sweet things. Toru Watanabe bit on the straw and looked at the environment of Bayou School. Dark yellow tiles, neatly arranged fluorescent lights on the ceiling, and open classroom doors. In the corner of the corridor, there was a pile of graffiti on the table, missing a few chairs. It was an ordinary public high school with no distinguishing features other than the uniform of a sailor. "How come I don't have that kind of situation?" Kumiko asked. "That means you're not really studying." "Impossible. I'm the #1 in the country, would I lie? I rely on strawberry milk to replenish my sugar and keep my brain active." Sigh. Rin Kiyono helplessly sighed. "What's wrong?" Toru Watanabe immediately turned his head and asked with concern. "The glucose that replenishes the brain is made from rice, bread, noodles, and other starchy foods that are digested and absorbed by the body. Compared to grades, I think you should improve your common sense." "You're saying I don't have common sense?" Rin Kiyono showed a kind smile, confirming Toru Watanabe's doubts. Facing Kumiko's "How do you explain" eyes, Toru Watanabe shrugged indifferently. He took a sip of milk and said, "I used to be knowledgeable, and well-versed in both Chinese and Western, but since I have Dora A. Lin, I only know what I don't know." "But aren't you the number one in the country?" Kumiko kindly reminded him. "I hate it when people judge a person based on their grades. It's too narrow-minded. People should live in a wider world. But if you're the number one in the country, you should at least know that the brain needs sugar through." Kumiko. Toru Watanabe patted Kumiko's weak shoulder. "I'm here." Kumiko thought to herself, "This hand is too big." Toru Watanabe showed a charming smile and said gently, "You must not be popular, right?" Kumiko blinked, "I'm not." Before she could finish, a shout came from afar. "Stay away from Kumiko, you pervert." Toru Watanabe moved his hand away and pretended that he did nothing, then said to Lena, who was glaring at him, "Long time no see, Reina. I'm a fan of yours from Tokyo, and I'm here to see you." "Go to hell." Lena glared at him, then looked at Kumiko with concern. "Kumiko, he didn't do anything to you, right?" "I didn't have time," Kumiko replied. "Hey." Under Lena's murderous gaze, Toru Watanabe defended himself. "You're trying to drive a wedge between me and my idol. It's not good, right?" Kumiko smiled happily. "Everyone, now you know who's the one with the nasty personality, right? Kumiko, let's go." Lena grabbed Kumiko's hand. "The afternoon ensemble practice is about to start." "Wait a minute, Lena, Unable to break free, Kumiko could only shout to Toru Watanabe and Roland, "Hurry up and follow me." Toru Watanabe finished the strawberry milk in one gulp and threw it into a nearby trash can. He picked up Rin Kiyono's shoulder bag and extended his hand to her. "Let's go, the weak and common-sense Kiyono." Rin Kiyono glared at him with dissatisfaction. "I still have the strength to stand up. Can't I carry that bag myself?" Before Toru Watanabe could finish his words, Rin Kiyono had already stood up, her silky black hair swaying as she walked towards Kumiko and Roland. "What are you still doing? Hurry up." Kiyono classmate, a guy carrying a girl's bag in a place like school, no matter how you look at it, it's a bit. The four of them arrived at the music classroom. "Everyone should know them, right?" Kumiko introduced Toru Watanabe and Roland to everyone. "This time, they're on a study trip to Kyoto, so I invited them to come to the club for an exchange." Then she said to the two of them, "Can you introduce yourselves?" Rin Kiyono nodded. "Hello everyone, I'm Rin Kiyono, a consultant and conductor in the Kamikawa High School Band. My specialty is the trumpet." Everyone applauded enthusiastically and talked about it. "Look closer, she's so beautiful. Her figure is amazing. Her skirt is so long, but I can see her long and thin legs. I think I know how she became a consultant." The applause stopped, and everyone quieted down, looking at Toru Watanabe. They had listened to the national competition's CD countless times and watched it again and again, but the sound of the oboe was still incredible. They asked the consultant teacher and the oboe, Katsuka Yui, and received the answer, "That's not a level that can be reached with hard work." "Hello everyone, my instrument is the oboe, and my favorite food is Uji's matcha, especially matcha smoothies and matcha." Toru Watanabe classmate. "Aha, Toru Watanabe, nice to meet you." Toru Watanabe nodded to everyone. "Watanabe classmate, can you play the oboe for once?" That's right, I'm your biggest fan." The new second-year head, Yuko, clapped her hands and said loudly, "Everyone, quiet down." When everyone quieted down, she said to Rin Kiyono and Toru Watanabe, "Kiyono classmate, can you lead us for the afternoon ensemble practice? Please." Rin Kiyono rubbed her chin and thought, "It's Dance of the Three Suns and Moons, right?" Yuko nodded excitedly, "That's right. That's our free song." Kiyono classmate's memory is amazing. We only won the bronze medal, but she remembered the song we played. Kumiko was surprised. "Don't mention the bronze medal, Kumiko." Lena sighed. Kumiko came back to her senses and looked at the embarrassed expressions of the surrounding students. She quickly apologized. In front of the national gold medal, it was inappropriate to say that her club only won the bronze medal. To be honest, Rin Kiyono glanced at them, I'm surprised that you were able to enter the national competition. Aha! Toru Watanabe loudly explained, our school was able to win the gold medal because of Kiyono classmates' strictness. Everyone, please prepare yourselves. Yes. Not only did they not mind, but they also looked at Rin Kiyono curiously. Perhaps, they were thinking of secretly learning from her? Rin Kiyono glanced at Toru Watanabe, then walked up to the conductor's seat and looked at the score for Dance of the Three Suns and Moons. Watanabe, you're coming too? Kumiko asked expectantly. She felt like she could hear that incredible sound again. I never refuse a friend's request. I didn't bring any instruments. Does your club have an oboe? How could a public school like Hokuyu City, which didn't even have a school bus, buy such an expensive instrument? The only oboe they had was bought by Senpai Keizuka herself. While Kumiko was feeling regretful, Keizuka's calm voice sounded, if you don't mind, please use mine. Senpai Keizuka, is that okay? Kumiko was surprised. Yes. Keizuka nodded. I want to become stronger, for she may. Oh, is that so? Kumiko immediately understood. Toru Watanabe looked at the situation in front of him and felt that it was very familiar. He leaned over to Kumiko and whispered in her ear, Senpai with a cool name, do you like girls? What's wrong with liking girls? Lina squeezed between the two of them and looked up at Toru Watanabe with her beautiful face. Do you have any objections? None at all. To be honest, I like girls too. If you have time to expose your oh-so-erotic fetish, why don't you hurry up and look at the score? Rin Kiyono's cold gaze shot over. What do you think, Toru Watanabe? You're right. Toru Watanabe walked over to Keizuka. Keizuka stood up and handed the oboe to him, then sat down and stared at his fingers and lips without moving. Toru Watanabe looked at the reed and praised, Senpai Keizuka, although you're still far from my level, you're still an amazing reed player. Keizuka nodded slowly. Chapter 166. Toru Watanabe put the reed in his mouth and tried playing a short line. The unfamiliar oboe quickly took on his appearance. I'm good, he said as he took the reed out of his mouth. Everyone in Kitayuji's music department looked at him with shining eyes, except for Kaitsuki who was sitting next to him. She was currently staring blankly at a certain spot with a thoughtful expression. Please play another part. Kumiko requested in a determined tone. Just the scale alone was beautiful. A good person would be really good at playing it. Don't you want an ensemble? Toru Watanabe asked. No problem. A short girl shouted as she clenched her fists and stood on tiptoe. Toru Watanabe was startled by her enthusiasm. He thought for a moment and said, all right, I should be able to play a short part. A few basic practice tunes slowly spread out from the oboe. The sound that made one's heart tremble and goosebumps rise penetrated the entire music room. Kumiko listened in silence, her heart racing. The performance soon ended. Everyone in the music department was not only impressed, but also dumbfounded. It was the same piece, but for some reason, every note that Toru Watanabe played was more beautiful than anyone else's. It was irresistible. Kumiko believed that this was what made music interesting. At the same time, she was afraid of this fact. She needed to muster up her courage to face the huge gap between herself and others. Right. Kumiko suddenly thought of a good idea. Why don't we broadcast it to the school during the ensemble? Let the whole school listen to it. Agreed. And it's lunch break. But I'll be nervous. No. My brain is already in chaos. Music score. Music score. Where's the music score? Everyone had different reactions, but almost everyone supported this idea. After Yuko nodded in confirmation, Kumiko looked at Rin Kiyono and Toru Watanabe, hoping to get their approval. No problem. Only when there's an audience can you play at your true level. Rin Kiyono nodded in agreement. What about Watanabe? There shouldn't be any problems, right? Kumiko asked in a fierce tone. Are you sure you want to do this? Toru Watanabe said hesitantly. Originally, after seeing me, everyone in Bayou Empire would like me 100%. But after listening to my performance, it will become 100%. What kind of strange percentage is that? Just tell me if you agree or not. Lena snapped. I advise you to be more polite with your words. I'm your only fan. Be careful or I'll stop being your fan. You. Lena had never seen such a shameless boy before. She was so angry that she was speechless. Toru Watanabe-san, Rin Kiyono rubbed her throbbing temples. Don't waste my time. Okay, I have no more questions. Let's begin. Toru Watanabe's voice was crisp and clear. After everyone was ready and tuned in, the new deputy head, a girl named Nakagawa Natsuki, connected the music classroom to the school's broadcast system. Hello, I'm sorry to disturb everyone. This is the wind department. Today, we've invited the conductor and oboe who won the National Gold Award to exchange. While the deputy head was communicating with the school's teachers and students through the microphone, Toru Watanabe and Kumiko were also whispering to each other. How was your practice with the notes I gave you? You'll definitely be surprised. Kumiko replied with high morale. Your senpai is really amazing. She's quite amazing. Toru Watanabe said perfunctorily, Don't let me down. I'll always pay attention to the bass's tone. Forget about that. Kumiko seriously refused. Please concentrate on your own part. Currently, she could only brag about her can't lose to anyone else's effort. As for her performance, please wait until next year. It would definitely give Watanabe a huge shock. Be good and call her Sister Kumiko. That's all. Please listen to the Wind Department's noon ensemble, Dance of the Three Suns and the Moon. After the deputy head's exchange, the two also ended their conversation. Rin Kiyono looked around at everyone and slowly raised his baton. Few, uniform inhalations were heard through the broadcast, spreading to every corridor and every room in Hokuriku High School. In the office, the teachers put down their work. In the classroom, the students stopped chatting. Even the boys playing basketball on the field stopped shooting. Silence dominated Hokuriku High School. In the next moment, the main melody of the trumpet rose from the ground. In the third-grade classroom, Asuka Tanaka was eating a sandwich and listening to the ensemble from the broadcast. The notes were neat and tidy, without a trace of impurity. It seemed that they did not waste any time even after she left. That's amazing, Asuka. A girl in the class praised. Humph, she's my junior after all. Asuka Tanaka took a sip of milk proudly. She didn't get the National Gold Award even with this level of skill? Asuka Tanaka put down the milk and smiled bitterly. The national competition is full of monsters, especially. The classroom, which was gradually becoming noisy, suddenly quieted down. It was as melodious as a gospel singer, as if God was sighing. Even the sun was resonating with it, making it even more sacred. What's this? A girl asked in surprise. A computer-composed tune? Asuka Tanaka shrugged and said casually, This is the National Gold Award for oboe. Liar? How can it be so good? Ha ha ha, it's a liar. If everyone is. Look outside. A boy by the window shouted. Everyone looked out of the window instinctively. Their eyes were wide open and their mouths were agape. Their faces were filled with disbelief. In another third-grade classroom, the automatic pencil in Kwai's hand had stopped at some point. She looked out of the window at Hokuriku High School's broadcast. Countless white pigeons were flying in the sky. Their white feathers reflected the sunlight, making it hard for people to open their eyes. When the ensemble ended, Kumiko's cheeks were tinged with a faint blush. She thought that she had shown all the hard work she had put in during this period. But it was still not enough. She only knew a little of the content in the notebook. She wanted to keep improving, keep learning, and keep playing with everyone. Just as she was immersed in the performance, Toru Watanabe's low voice sounded in her ear. "Turn off the broadcast." Huh? She didn't react. "Go." Oh. Just as Kumiko subconsciously walked over, Rin Kiyono's cold and pleasant voice sounded. "Before I give you pointers, you must first realize your own shortcomings. Your fingering can keep up with the rhythm, but your breathing can't keep up. Once you speed up, it becomes messy. I really wonder how you became Kansai's representative. Trombone section, do you understand the difference between full and too messy? If you don't, I suggest you ask a Mandarin teacher." French horn. Sitting in that position should be the second seat, right? Kumiko looked at the button to turn it off and let out a long sigh. The section's reputation was saved. Probably. And bass horn. Here. Kumiko immediately stood still. Instead of considering the diversity of the performance, it's better to let Kumiko play alone. For you, this arrangement will increase your chances of entering the national competition next year. Kumiko was happy to be praised, but she immediately looked at Nakagawa Natsuki with an apologetic look. Natsuki was one of the only 2 bass horn players left after leaving the section in the 3rd year. Nakagawa Natsuki smiled at Kumiko and shook his head. Behind the upper bass horn on her knees, she tightly gripped the hem of her school uniform skirt. She wasn't angry at all, but she was unwilling to give up. Kumiko joined the section when she was young and played the bass horn until now. She only joined the section in the 1st year of high school and then came into contact with the bass horn. Last year, she was eliminated from the B section during the selection. She must work hard and join the A section next year. Aha! A clear voice interrupted Natsuki Nakagawa's thoughts and Rin Kiyono's instructions. For the entire wind instrument department, the meaning of an afternoon break is too small. Toru Watanabe stood up. "I can train Keizuka Senpai individually. What do you think? Train Keizuka Senpai individually." How confident must he be to say something like that? Kumiko was already better than Natsuki Nakagawa to begin with. After the national competition, she improved by leaps and bounds. However, she didn't dare to say something like that. She even felt uneasy when Natsuki took the initiative to ask her for advice. Aha! Keizuka nodded nonchalantly. Everyone snapped out of their depression and looked at Toru Watanabe curiously. He couldn't possibly give Rin Kiyono cruel instructions to a cute girl like Keizuka, who was also a senior, right? "I've heard Hoki Yuji's performance. Keizuka Senpai's oboe is indeed excellent," Toru Watanabe said. "But, how should I say this? You still don't understand contrast." Aha! Keizuka tilted her head in confusion. Her small white ears peeked out from her short black hair. She wasn't the only one. The others couldn't understand what Toru Watanabe was talking about either. Was he joking? On the podium, Rin Kiyono crossed her arms and looked at Toru Watanabe. This person was always talking nonsense. He always talked about handsome guys in Tokyo and acted childish. However, if one underestimated him and believed him because of this, they would be fooled. He was good at using jokes to subtly influence people and make them obey him. Even someone as outstanding as herself and the annoying Miki Kujo would occasionally be manipulated by him. Keizuka Senpai, your solo was very stable. You were as calm as yourself. Aha! Keizuka remained expressionless in the face of praise. Calm girls are very charming, very charming. I really like calm girls, such as Are-san. Even if she has a terrible personality, I still... Toru Watanabe. Rin Kiyono's voice sounded. Back to the topic. Keizuka Senpai, your oboe was played for that Kimi Senpai, right? Kimi is special. She's my most important friend. I only play for Kimi. Keizuka said the longest sentence of the day. Aha! The flute girl beside her, who was full of vitality, replied. Keizuka looked at her shyly and gently. The flute girl grinned at her. Friendship between girls is amazing. Toru Watanabe was so touched that he wiped the corners of his eyes. Now, I'm going to tell you my secret to becoming the most popular girl in Tokyo. I'm going to make this Kimi-senpai love you so much that she can't stop thinking about you for the rest of her life. Ha! Kimi-senpai was shocked. Yes. Keizuka looked straight at Toru Watanabe with a determined gaze. Huh? Kimi-senpai turned her head and looked at her good friend in disbelief. Toru Watanabe ignored Kimi-senpai's reaction and put on the air of being the most popular girl in Tokyo. If a girl who's usually calm and dignified can show her passionate, wild, and crazy side at a critical moment, it will excite and captivate the other party. What? Keizuka's tone was emotionless. Her large eyes were filled with confusion. This was a pure and innocent child. Watanabe! Kumiko shouted with a red face. Pervert! Lena also turned her head away with a red face. Okay, yellow card. The people around him also burst into laughter and whispered to each other. They were all yellow cards. What I mean is, Kimi-senpai, when you play the oboe, you can try to be more emotional and passionate. Aren't you playing for Kimi-senpai? Then let her see your greedy and possessive love. Be so passionate that you'll melt her. Look at those fair and tender legs under her pleated skirt. Don't you want to touch them? As Keizuka's gaze became more and more lustful, Yamaki Shime covered her chest with one hand and pulled her skirt down. She even turned her body slightly. She's shy, but she's also cute, right? Do you want to bully Shime like this? Do you want to hold her in your arms? Keizuka's voice became sticky. That's right. That's it. Naked words from the heart, naked heart, naked love. With Toru Watanabe's voice, Keizuka's performance was filled with passion. It was no longer as cold as ice. Her fingers gently slid across the keys. Sometimes it was cheerful, sometimes it was melancholic, sometimes it was sweet, and sometimes it was sad. The tone seemed to become colorful and dazzling. Every trace of the melody was filled with emotion. In an instant, Kumiko seemed to see the music classroom filled with pink bubbles. It was incredible. Perfect. Toru Watanabe clapped his hands. In Kumiko's line of sight, Keizuka stopped playing and smiled happily. She seemed to have grasped something. Keizuka-senpai, you have to remember that you're not playing for the sake of restoring the score. You have to make Keizuki-senpai feel shy, touched, sad, and even embarrassed. You have to arrange her in a way that you like. The oboe is your weapon. Yes, I understand. Keizuka nodded excitedly. Keizuka, Umbrella Mushime, who was clutching her skirt and breasts, pleaded for her to stay. Keizuki-senpai, your voice is very clean and your pitch is very stable. For a high school student, your performance is very good. Now that I've recommended you, you've become a believer of love. In the future, you can definitely enter a music university and let the whole world hear your voice. As long as Shime can hear it, I'm satisfied. That's true. Toru Watanabe reacted. But when the time comes, Keizuki-senpai will also let you go. She'll let you go to a more distant and better music temple. Keizuka shook her head. She hugged her oboe and looked at Umbrella Mushime without saying a word. Umbrella Mushime's bright and doting smile flashed with a hint of confusion. Keizuka had always been far more talented and hard-working than ordinary people. Her performance was even better. And just now, that even more moving voice had truly stirred her heart. In the future, if she became even more outstanding and could go to the best music university, would she be able to do it? Or would she let Keizuka accompany her to a normal university? Umbrella Mushime gripped her flute tightly. Lunch break passed quickly. Kumiko was sending off Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono at the school gate. Kumiko, remember the math notes I gave you. I'll be waiting for you at Tokyo University. You overestimate me. I thought you'd say, even if I can get in, I'll still accompany Lena to a women's university. Looks like the two of you aren't clingy enough. Don't say that again. Okay. Toru Watanabe wanted to say something else, but the bell rang in the distance, signaling the start of class. Let's go. He waved his hand decisively and walked down the hill with Rin Kiyono. Okay. Goodbye. Kumiko was shocked by her own hoarse voice. When she came back to her senses, she realized that her eyes were almost red. Fortunately, Toru Watanabe had already turned around. Kiyono-san, how was my teaching method? Was the effect outstanding? I can guarantee to Hoki Yuji that the Keizuka Denglong will definitely become an amazing oboe player. If it doesn't work, I'll make it quake right now. I only saw you harassing the girls. Hey. It's because you're looking at this matter through colored glasses that you think I'm harassing you. If you calm down, then Their voices gradually became indistinct. Kumiko, it's time for class. Lena's voice came from behind her. Kumiko took a deep breath and calmed herself down. Coming. She suddenly remembered something Toru Watanabe had said when they first met today. Think about it. Everyone is charmed by me, but in the blink of an eye, they'll never see me again. Don't you think that's very youthful? Tokyo. She turned around and walked toward the school building. She looked into the distance with a sense of loss. Beyond the mountain behind the school, she could see the endless clear autumn sky. A plane flew from west to east, leaving a white tail line that divided the sky into two. When I eat roasted suckling pig, I occasionally try the perverted behavior that Toru Watanabe-san talked about. When I think of Kiyono-san dipping her food in sugar, this way of eating also becomes cute. The two of them chatted as they moved closer. Unfortunately, before the two of them could get close, the white bird raised its long neck, swallowed the fish in its mouth, and flew away. The two of them continued to stroll along the riverbank, walking on the stone-paved embankment. The lush maple leaves shone through the sunlight. Some benches were placed beside the river, where joggers and tourists would rest. Fusang is the best in autumn, and the maple leaves are tender and cold, Toru Watanabe recited loudly. Who wrote it? Lu Sun. Rin Kiyono nodded elegantly and looked into the distance. Under the sun's brilliance, the surface of the Uji River shimmered with colorful sparkles. The water hit the wooden piles and stones, splashing white foam. In the distance, the mountain peak that welcomed the maple leaf season was dyed red and yellow. She retracted her gaze and noticed that Toru Watanabe had picked a miscanthus from the surrounding weeds and was waving it while walking. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt happy, and a faint warmth overflowed in her chest. Watanabe-san, do you want to hear my story? She said this sentence in a mood that she had never felt before. I'm not interested in other people's past. Toru Watanabe stopped waving the miscanthus and turned to look at her. Except for Raso, Rin Kiyono didn't express any opinion on this sentence. I've always lived without expectations, she said. I don't associate with anyone. I don't expect others to respond to anything I do, and I don't need others to respond. Toru Watanabe didn't say a word and stared at the reeds not far ahead. When I was a child, everyone laughed, but I didn't even want to raise my eyebrows. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say that I couldn't raise my eyebrows, because what caused the laughter were all lies. I only felt disgusted. I can probably guess such a past. Toru Watanabe nodded. Under the shade of the maple tree, the two of them walked towards the reeds. At that time, I would mercilessly point out that others were lying to their faces. At first, everyone treated me as a child and laughed without caring at all. But after a few times, they couldn't laugh anymore and looked at me as if I was a weirdo. There were two girls sitting by the riverbank, and Rin Kiyono stopped narrating. When they were far away from the two girls, she said self-deprecatingly, the people around me began to stay away from me and ridicule me for thinking I was noble and virtuous, including your Mickey. When she said the last sentence, she smiled and glanced at Toru Watanabe. Toru Watanabe awkwardly threw the miscanthus into the river and clapped his hands. Rin Kiyono smiled and said, I don't mean to blame you. After all, it has nothing to do with you. The two of them walked to the reeds, and Toru Watanabe sat down on an old bench. He patted the extra space next to him and motioned for Rin Kiyono to sit down as well. Rin Kiyono pressed down her pleated skirt and sat next to him in a very ladylike manner. The two of them sat in the shade of the tree, side by side, and watched the endless stream of the Ujikawa for a while. "I don't think the problem is with you," Toru Watanabe said. "You are fundamentally different from them. You are a flower that bloomed in the wrong season." "Wrong season? The focus should be on the flower, right?" Toru Watanabe looked at her. "I really like your personality." Rin Kiyono put her hand on her chin and smiled mischievously. "Why don't you tell me about it separately? Don't even think about it. I like Mickey." After decisively refusing, Toru Watanabe looked at the Ujikawa again. "I thought you would be in a very negative mood right now. I didn't expect you to still be able to joke. The world won't be gentle to negative people, Watanabe-san." "That makes sense. I learned something new." Toru Watanabe nodded seriously. He wanted to say something comforting, but Rin Kiyono wasn't a weak person who needed comforting. She didn't say these things to gain his sympathy. Moreover, he had never experienced the same thing. No matter how he put himself in her shoes, he couldn't comfort her. A breeze blew, and the leaves above his head rustled. A red leaf fell on Rin Kiyono's lap. She gently picked up the leaf, and facing the sunlight that squeezed through the leaves, she whispered in a clear voice. "The wind is blowing. Do you want to live?" "No, there's no need for that." Toru Watanabe suddenly felt sad. He realized that Rin Kiyono's past wasn't just what she said just now. He picked up a relatively intact leaf from the ground. "It's because of the decay of these maple leaves that the cherry blossoms here will be even more beautiful next spring." Rin Kiyono smiled and took back her hand that was holding the maple leaf. "I just suddenly thought of this sentence. Watanabe-san, you don't have to be so anxious to comfort me. I just said it casually. You think too much." "Watanabe, you really like to lie." Rin Kiyono smiled helplessly, her slender hand quickly turning the leaf stem. "I'm sorry for living in a way that you hate." Toru Watanabe didn't apologize at all. "Sometimes, even if you hate it, you still have to endure it. That's how life is." "Indeed, but I'm a little sad when you say that. I just said that I don't have expectations for anyone, right?" Rin Kiyono looked at him. "Yes." Toru Watanabe threw the leaf in his hand under the bare cherry blossom tree. This attitude continued until Watanabe-san appeared. "I have expectations for you, although I don't want to admit it." "What kind of expectations?" "I'm not sure." Rin Kiyono turned her gaze to the river and showed a thoughtful expression. "This kind of feeling is very vague." Toru Watanabe walked over with the pillow. "Get up." Osamu Kanai didn't say a word. Toru Watanabe kicked his butt. "What?" Osamu Kanai said impatiently. "I'm taking you out to relax." "I'm not going." Osamu Kanai covered his head with the blanket. "If you don't go, I'll tell everyone in school about you liking Yui-san and how you were rejected." "If you want to say it, then say it." "And the type of movies you like." "You." Osamu Kanai lifted the blanket and glared at Toru Watanabe. Osamu Kanai, this guy liked the sibling type, the kind that was close to each other. "One Aoi Ichiki is a small matter," Toru Watanabe threw the pillow aside and said casually. "If people know about your interests, you won't be able to get a girlfriend for 3 years in high school. No, you won't be able to get a girlfriend in university." I'll go. Osamu Kanai gave up on himself. "Look at you." Toru Watanabe laughed. "Isn't it just a girlfriend? You're studying in Tokyo's top private high school, your grades are in the top 3,000 in the country, your sports nerves are developed, and you're already in Koshien in your first year of high school. Why worry about not being able to find a girlfriend? Then why did Yui-san reject me?" "She doesn't like baseball." "Then what does she like?" "Rugby." "Then I'll join the rugby club next year." Osamu Kunai picked up his school jacket and put it on with a gloomy face. Wait, how would I know what Aoi Ichiki likes? Can't you have some sense of judgment? After Osamu Kunai put on his clothes, he walked in front of Keisuke Saito and snatched the game console. What are you doing? I've been playing for 20 minutes and I still haven't saved it. Give it back. Osamu Kunai sneered and turned it off without mercy. Seeing that you're heartbroken, I won't bicker with you today. The three of them walked out of the bunk and walked towards the door. On the way, Toru Watanabe said to Osamu Kunai, "It's good to fail once. If a person wants to become great, failure is a necessary process." Osamu Kunai stared at the ground and walked without saying a word. Toru Watanabe didn't care about his reaction and continued, "Even someone as great as me only wanted to muddle through and experience things that ordinary people can't stand. Only then did I get rid of my meaningless life and become a great person." "What do you mean by muddling through?" Keisuke Saito asked. "Let's say that ordinary people's standard of being rich is 10 or 20 million a year. Then my standard of muddling through is at least 100 or 200 million a year. You call that muddling through?" Osamu Kunai said in annoyance. "It can't be helped. In my line of work, the bottom line is quite low. If other people in the same line of work know that my annual income is only 100 million a year, they'll probably laugh their heads off. What's your profession? Can you introduce him to me?" Keisuke Saito asked curiously. "A handsome guy from Tokyo. Isn't he just a pretty boy?" Osamu Kunai said with disdain. Forget it. Pretty boys are also part of our business." Toru Watanabe tolerated him. When the three of them walked to the door, they met unexpected people, Rin Kiyono and Aoi Ichiki. Keisuke Saito smiled slyly and used his elbow to poke Osamu Kunai's side. Osamu Kunai pushed him away with all his might. Aoi Ichiki looked at the three of them, and her expression was a bit awkward. Toru Watanabe walked up. "Where are you going?" Classmate Yaki said that there's a very accurate divination club, and she wants to take a look. Rin Kiyono replied. "Divination?" Toru Watanabe thought for a moment. "Can we go together?" "I haven't thought of where to go yet." "Watanabe." Osamu Kunai quickly walked up and shouted in a low voice. Toru Watanabe said to Aoi Ichiki, "Classmate Yaki, you don't mind if we go together, right?" Okay. Aoi Ichiki replied a beat later. Thus, the five of them walked out of the Eastern Mountain Villa and prepared to go to the divination club. The three boys fell behind. "Watanabe, what are you doing?" Osamu Kunai asked in a low voice, flustered and exasperated. "Is it embarrassing that your confession failed? Isn't that obvious? You're classmates, and you'll see each other every day in the future. You might even be in the same class in the second year. Rather than waiting for the embarrassment in the future, it's better to take advantage of the current situation and get rid of the sadness and awkwardness from your failure." Osamu Kunai looked at Aoi Ichiki's back in front of him. Toru Watanabe followed his gaze and looked at Aoi Ichiki, then quickly shifted his gaze to Rin Kiyono. "Don't thank me." He patted Osamu Kunai's shoulder. "After all, as an Ultraman, it's my duty to guide humans. Don't try to act cool. You're just trying to show off." Osamu Kunai slapped Toru Watanabe's hand away. "There's no difference. There's no difference. We're all friends of justice." Chapter 168. The roads in Kyoto were straight. Even the corners were at 90 degrees. It was like a chessboard with straight lines. The divination club that Aoi Ichiki mentioned was near Kagawa. She led the way according to the map. The five of them walked along Kagawa at a leisurely pace. When they reached the Nijo Bridge, they turned between Harmony Zoo and Dharmakira. The divination club named Jingue-do was located at the end of the alley. The style of the alley made it seem like an ordinary shopping street. There was a photo studio filled with pictures, a stationery shop that sold stationery for primary school students, a florist shop with flower language on the board. I don't think the divination club should be in a place like this. Keisuke Saito stared at the entrance of the small bookstore. There were some erotic magazines there. The covers were full of swimsuit models with good figures. Maybe it's because the houses in Kyoto aren't cheap. Osamu Kunai glanced at the vending machine in the corner. It sold some functional dolls. You can't judge a book by its cover, and you can't look down on a shop because of its location. As for Toru Watanabe, he was more interested in the photo studio. Kimonos were out of the question. There were classic Western aristocratic dresses and tight-fitting riding outfits. When he came back to his senses, Rin Kiyono was looking at him with disdain. "Do you want to go in and take a look?" she said mockingly with a condescending smile. "Why would I buy flowers? I'm just curious about flower language." Toru Watanabe shook his head. "Have we arrived?" "Yeah." Aoi Ichiki looked at the golden signboard of the divination club, then looked down at her phone. "It's here. Let's go in." The fortune teller was a middle-aged woman in a kimono. She was about 40 years old. Her face was covered with serious wrinkles. But when she spoke, her voice didn't sound mysterious. Instead, it sounded very normal and friendly. Perhaps it was because it was common for high school students to come here for fortune-telling, but she didn't show any surprise when she saw the 5 people in school uniforms. She and Aoi Ichiki sat facing each other in a room with a glass window that overlooked the Okawa River. The other 4 sat behind Aoi Ichiki. The 2 of them began their divination. "What do you want to divine? Studies? Or friendship? Or love?" the clairvoyant asked gently. "Yes." Aoi Ichiki remembered that Osamu Kunai and Keisuke Saito were still there. "Can I watch all of them?" "Of course. The price is the same regardless of whether it's the same or all of them." The fortune teller shuffled the tarot cards. "All right, please pick one card." Aoi Ichiki picked one out and handed it to her. "No matter the result is good or bad, please tell me everything." "Yes, don't worry." The fortune teller looked at the tarot cards for a while. "How old are you this year?" 16. 16 years old. "Have you achieved a satisfactory result in a competition recently?" Aoi Ichiki's eyes widened in surprise. She nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes, yes. Based on your age and this tarot card, things might not go well next year." "Yes, yes, yes." "It's so accurate." Aoi Ichiki's eyes were shining. Without Rin Kiyono and Toru Watanabe, the Kamikawa High School band's performance next year was indeed worrying. Toru Watanabe leaned slightly and whispered to Rin Kiyono, who was sitting elegantly, "It seems to be quite accurate." "Is she lying?" Rin Kiyono felt his hot breath on her ear. She looked straight ahead and scolded, "Sit tight." "Okay." Toru Watanabe straightened his back. At some point, the fortune-teller's smile became gentler. She said to the excited Aoi Ichiki, "Although there will be setbacks in the competition, don't worry. In school, as long as you stay focused as usual, you will continue to have a smooth sailing." "Yes, yes. What about friendship? What will happen?" The fortune-teller looked at the tarot cards for a while. She suddenly looked surprised as if she had discovered something. "Congratulations. Friendship is very good. In April next year, you will meet an amazing friend in your new class." April next year. Aoi Ichiki thought about the students in the 4 classes in the first grade. She couldn't think of anyone who would be an amazing friend. But she didn't care about friendship for the time being. She asked nervously, "What about love? The person you like is a friend from the club, right?" The fortune-teller said in a certain tone. You can divine that. Also came to Kyoto this time." "Yes, yes, yes." "Someone who looks very good and has excellent grades, right?" "That's right." Aoi Ichiki's right hand clutched the collar of her shirt. She looked straight at the fortune-teller. "What will happen?" The fortune-teller didn't say anything. She just stared at the tarot cards for a long time. Osamu Kunai came over and said to Toru Watanabe in a low voice, "So Itsuki classmate likes you, Ah! Toru Watanabe was stunned. He turned his head and frowned at him. What are you talking about? I think so too. Keisuke Saito nodded. How could it be me? A friend from the club, came to Kyoto together, looks good, grades good. Osamu Kanai stared fiercely at Toru Watanabe. If it's not you, then who is it? I. Toru Watanabe couldn't defend himself. He could only look at Aoi Ichiki. She was looking at the fortune teller expectantly and didn't notice the situation. He looked at Rin Kiyono with pleading eyes. Rin Kiyono stroked her chin. I feel like drinking coffee. I'll buy it for you later. Rin Kiyono put down her hand with satisfaction. I know who Itsuki classmate likes. She told me before that it's not Watanabe. That's good. Osamu Kanai sighed in relief. Although Aoi Ichiki was free to like whoever she liked, he still hoped that the person she liked wasn't Toru Watanabe, whether it was from the perspective of a friend or competitiveness. That's strange. Keisuke Saito asked, is there a guy who is more handsome than Watanabe, has better grades, and is more popular with girls? No. Rin Kiyono's tone was indifferent, but to like someone, it's not just about being handsome and having good grades. That's right, you also have to be as honest as me. Toru Watanabe said seriously. Sit down. Rin Kiyono's tone suddenly became strict. Not only Toru Watanabe, even Osamu Kanai and Keisuke Saito didn't dare to speak. The three boys straightened their backs and obediently put their hands on their knees. When Aoi Ichiki nervously moved her but for the second time, the fortune-teller finally looked away from the tarot cards. Sometimes divination works, sometimes it doesn't, so even if the result isn't good, please don't take it to heart. She said this sentence with a regretful tone. What do you mean? Aoi Ichiki, who was kneeling, slightly straightened her body. I suggest that you choose someone else. Saying this, the fortune-teller gently put down the tarot cards in her hand. How could this be? Aoi Ichiki's sitting posture suddenly relaxed. That, Iki-san, Osamu Kanai's voice was frighteningly sharp. He hurriedly cleared his throat and then continued. The fortune-teller also said that sometimes divination doesn't work, so don't take it to heart. Aoi Ichiki turned around and forced a smile. Thank you, Koi-san, but I can probably guess the result. Saying this, she turned around and bowed to the fortune-teller. Thank you very much. If I can help you, then that's great. The fortune-teller also bowed deeply to her. She raised her head and said to the four people behind her, Does anyone else want a divination? Rin Kiyono showed an uninterested expression. The three boys looked at each other. I don't have any money, Keisuke Saito said bluntly. I've already accepted my fate, Osamu Kanai said. Aoi Ichiki, who was sitting next to Rin Kiyono, heard this. Her disappointed expression was a bit awkward, and she looked at him apologetically. Before Toru Watanabe could say anything, Keisuke Saito grabbed his arm. Watanabe, why don't you try? Let's see if you can live a life of 100 million a year. That's right. Go. Osamu Kanai clapped his hands in agreement. Guest, please sit here. The fortune-teller gestured to the seat Aoi Ichiki had just sat on. Okay. Toru Watanabe could only stand up. You too, listen carefully to my glorious future, it's best if you take a notebook. The seat was still warm, and there was still the girl's body heat. He should let Osamu Kanai do it. What would you like to test? The fortune-teller asked as she shuffled the tarot cards. Career, friendship, love. Please pick a card. The fortune-teller pointed the tarot card at Toru Watanabe. How old are you this year? 16. Toru Watanabe handed her the card he had drawn. Career. The fortune-teller muttered, I can't tell what you'll achieve in the future, but everything will be smooth sailing, so I suggest you set your goal higher, because everything will be successful. What about 20 billion a year? Toru Watanabe asked. That will also be smooth sailing. As if 20 billion was too much, the fortune-teller added, that's what the tarot card says. Toru Watanabe turned around and said to the four, "It seems that it's only a matter of time before I'm written into the textbooks. Since everything will be smooth sailing, and you set your goal at 20 billion a year, that's all Watanabe can do," Rin Kiyono said expressionlessly. "Then I'll change it to 20 billion a year." Toru Watanabe turned around and asked the fortune teller, "That's fine, right?" The fortune teller replied with an awkward but enthusiastic smile, "As long as you're determined to do it, I believe you'll succeed." "What about friendship?" "Right, let's just calculate my friendship with this beautiful girl." Toru Watanabe pointed at Rin Kiyono. "No problem." The fortune teller stared at the tarot cards for a while, then at the two of them. "After a long time. According to the cards, the friendship between the two of you won't be very harmonious." "Is that so?" The fortune teller raised her head and looked at Toru Watanabe awkwardly. The others also observed his expression with some trepidation. Although Toru Watanabe rarely smiled, it was the first time they saw him so completely expressionless. There was an indescribable sense of oppression. Only Rin Kiyono was calm and even smirked at Toru Watanabe. "Although it won't be harmonious, there's one thing," the fortune teller made a gesture of emphasis, "the compatibility between the two of you is not to be underestimated." "So we still can't be friends?" Toru Watanabe's cold voice revealed his lack of interest in the fortune teller. The fortune teller hesitated for a while, but finally answered with a definite, "Yes." "What about love?" Toru Watanabe tidied up the sleeves of his school uniform, looking like it was about time to leave. The fortune teller had been through a lot and had been scolded in public for scamming money before, so she quickly ignored Toru Watanabe's attitude. "In terms of love." She carefully studied the tarot cards as if there was really something written on them. "You have very strict requirements for yourself and your other half, so you have very little experience in love." "Yeah." Toru Watanabe nodded indifferently. "But in fact, your popularity is unparalleled. There are always all kinds of temptations around you, and if you don't pay attention, you will overindulge." "Overindulge? Ha ha ha." Osamu Kunai and Keisuke Saito both burst into laughter. Aoi Ichiki also laughed in a low voice, embarrassed. Rin Kiyono found it very funny and sighed, looking out the window in boredom. The sun was about to set, and soon, the sky would turn into a short and beautiful scarlet color. "Yeah." Toru Watanabe nodded perfunctorily. "I'll pay attention. Anything else?" "Although the cards show that there are countless thorns in front of you, as long as you persevere, there will be a smooth road ahead." "Understood." The fortune teller finally said, "It's better for you to focus on your career and carry out a rejection attitude, and your life will be very smooth." After Toru Watanabe finished, the fortune teller asked if there was anyone else who needed to be divined. Aoi Ichiki said to Rin Kiyono, "Kiyono classmate, why don't you try it too? It seems to be quite accurate." "Is it accurate?" Toru Watanabe interrupted and asked. Aoi Ichiki avoided his gaze in fear, and said to Rin Kiyono, "Just try it, you're already here anyway." Rin Kiyono looked at the expressionless Toru Watanabe, and thought for a moment, "Okay." She walked forward and sat down on the cushion, feeling the residual heat, and adjusted her position uncomfortably. "What do you want to divine?" the fortune teller asked. "Career and friendship. I've already grasped my own destiny." "Love." "Really?" Aoi Ichiki covered her mouth. "I didn't think that Kiyono classmate would be interested in love. Apart from career and friendship, there's only one choice left, right?" Rin Kiyono explained helplessly. She drew a tarot card, asked about her age, and the fortune teller began to answer. "You'll be attracted to men who are full of the unknown." Isn't that quite accurate? Everyone looked at Toru Watanabe in confusion, who suddenly became happy again. Rin Kiyono glanced at him coldly, and motioned for the fortune teller to continue. "Compared to marriage, I'm more concerned about the tacit understanding of the soul." Rin Kiyono's attitude was ambiguous, and she didn't comment. "There's one more thing you need to pay special attention to." The fortune teller looked at the beautiful girl in front of him. "Although you're very smart, sometimes you'll choose to believe the other person's words even when you know they're lying. That's impossible, Chingya Lin denied without even thinking. After experiencing the matter with Toru Watanabe, the fortune-teller was already used to it, and he said with a smile, regardless of whether the divination is accurate or not, please use it as a reference, and work hard to do what you want to do. Probably because Keisuke Saito said that he didn't have money, she didn't ask if they still needed to do divination. After paying, the five of them walked out of the Book of Fortune Divination Hall. The atmosphere was completely filled with the aura of dusk. Walking on the bridge, they could see the faint sunset on the surface of the mountain in the distance, and even the Otagawa River was plated with a layer of gold. Yitsuki-san, what do you plan to do next? Rin Kiyono crossed her arms and asked Aoi Ichiki, who was leaning on the bridge with both hands. Aoi Ichiki looked down at the flowing river. I want to ask my senpai to come out. The water flowed slowly, and a small stone poked its head out of the water, as if it wanted to stop the water, but it was a useless resistance, and the dark water avoided the small stone and flowed in the same direction. Then we'll go first. Toru Watanabe, who had been running around all day, said with a yawn. Not letting others disturb Aoi Ichiki's confession could be considered his job for the time being. In addition, even if he promised not to tell anyone, Mayasahi was still his girlfriend, and it would be awkward if he continued to stay after seeing his girlfriend being confessed to by a girl. Wait a minute. Aoi Ichiki turned to look at them, Kun Watanabe, and Kawai-san, I hope you can stay. Is it okay? Toru Watanabe looked at her. Yes. Aoi Ichiki nodded seriously. She might have done this because Osamu Kanai liked her, but no matter what the reason was, Toru Watanabe was not interested. Then we'll stay? He asked Osamu Kanai. Although Osamu Kanai was confused, he still said, I'm fine with it. Wait a minute, what about me? Keisuke Saito pointed at himself. He had forgotten about him. Aoi Ichiki smiled embarrassedly. Saito-san, if you're willing, you can also stay. Then, Aoi Ichiki called Mayasahi and asked her to come here with the excuse of having dinner. On the other side of the phone, Mayasahi agreed with her usual calm voice. Before she came, Toru Watanabe, Osamu Kanai, and Keisuke Saito were playing around by the river. The two of them asked what was going on, but Toru Watanabe refused to answer, saying that he would know later. Aoi Ichiki's secret was better left to her. Chapter 169. Toru Watanabe looked at the other side of the river, found the right angle, and threw the stone in his hand. The stone bounced up and down, creating white water ripples. Its speed was so fast that it looked like a lizard running on the water. How is it? After confirming that the stone had hit the other side, he turned around and asked the other four. It bounced dozens of times, right? Keisuke Saito was shocked. How did you do it? In 2004, a French scientist published an article in Nature. Toru Watanabe patted the dust off his hands. The number of times a stone bounces depends on 4 parameters: initial velocity, rotation speed, the distance between the stone and the water surface when it enters the water. Senior Mayasahi is here. Aoi Ichiki's anxious and uneasy voice interrupted him. Mayasahi's slender figure was embellished on the bridge that was filled with the colors of the setting sun. She was looking at them, but because of the backlight, no one could see her expression clearly. Let's go up, Aoi Ichiki said as she started walking. Osamu Kanai and Keisuke Saito immediately followed. Toru Watanabe looked at Rin Kiyono, who was sitting on the bench. She was elegant and beautiful. Compared to her, the river was not even worth mentioning. Looking at her, Toru Watanabe said, It depends on 4 parameters: initial velocity, rotation speed, the distance between the stone and the water surface when it enters the water, the angle, and the material of the stone. Rin Kiyono stood up, combed her hair calmly, and walked towards the bridge without looking back. Rin Kiyono was definitely a god. How could an ordinary high school student read Nature? When Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono reached the bridge, the atmosphere was very tense. Osamu Kanai and Keisuke Saito remained silent. Aoi Ichiki looked at my Asahi nervously. Only my Asahi reacted normally. However, when Toru Watanabe appeared behind Aoi Ichiki, she tilted her head slightly. His calm expression was as colorful as the river of Duck Creek at dusk. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two of them. Aoi Ichiki gripped the handrails of the bridge so tightly that her fingers turned white. Senior Mai. Yeah. Aoi Ichiki took a deep breath. Under her sweater and shirt, her slender abdomen, which only a 16-year-old girl would have, visibly contracted. Nervousness was transmitted to everyone along with the shockingly loud breathing. Even Toru Watanabe, who knew that his confession would be in vain, was a little nervous. Since junior high school, Aoi Ichiki felt that her face was so hot that it was about to spit fire. Her heart was beating so loudly that it was deafening. She took another deep breath. I like you, senior. I've always liked you. Since junior high school, I've always liked you. Thank you. My Asahi nodded calmly. After a moment of silence, Aoi Ichiki finally reacted. She hurriedly said, "It's the like in love, not like. Senior. Please date me." Keisuke Saito's mouth was wide open, his eyes shining. Osamu Kunai was shocked and kept blinking. Sorry. Hearing the answer, Aoi Ichiki clenched her fist and said unwillingly, "Is it because you don't like girls?" "I have someone I like." So that's the case, haha. She laughed awkwardly. Aoi Ichiki's world fell into a desolate silence. Then, the sound of the Duck River and the sound of a car engine roaring across the bridge filled her ears like thunder. Looking at Aoi Ichiki's back, Toru Watanabe took 2 steps forward. Senior, can you accompany me to the river?" He wanted to give Aoi Ichiki some time to organize her emotions. "I just discovered the technique of wasting water. Do you want to see it?" "Sure." After Toru Watanabe and my Asahi left, Aoi Ichiki finally turned around. She looked at the 3 people who were left behind and scratched her face shyly. "I feel disappointed and relieved at the same time." She took a deep breath and continued with a smile. "But the probability of 2 people liking each other is small, let alone the same sex. Even if it's just a casual conversation, it's hard to find a few in a lifetime, right?" As she spoke, Aoi Ichiki's eyes were filled with tears, and her world became foggy. She wiped the corners of her eyes and said while crying and laughing, "Kiyono-san, I've troubled you during this period of time. I'm really." The word "thank you" was stuck in her throat and she couldn't say it out. Aoi Ichiki could only nod slightly at Rin Kiyono, and then look at the large text mountain in the distance. Osamu Kunai saw transparent tears break free from her eyes and slide down her cheeks. He felt that he had to say something. "Yumiki-san, you're already amazing." Osamu Kunai's voice was distorted from nervousness. "If I liked someone of the same sex, I wouldn't even dare to confess, so, you. Osamu Kunai hated that he didn't read more books. He couldn't even complete a sentence of comfort. Just as he was anxious and didn't know what to do, Aoi Ichiki squatted down as if she had been hollowed out. She had her back to everyone, covered her mouth, and cried softly by the pillar of Nijo Bridge. Toru Watanabe picked up a stone and threw it at the beginning of the darkening river. The stone flew straight to the opposite bank. "How was it?" He turned to ask my Asahi. "Amazing." My Asahi clapped lightly. Toru Watanabe looked at her clear eyes staring straight at him and said with a smile, "Senior, you didn't even look at it, right?" My Asahi smiled and narrowed her eyes. "I've been looking at it the whole time." Toru Watanabe picked up another stone and calculated the angle to throw it. "Senior, what do you think about Yitsuki-san's matter?" "I don't like anyone except Toru." My Asahi had an indifferent attitude. She looked at Toru Watanabe's slightly slipping sleeve, from which she could see his wrist. Toru Watanabe didn't know what to say. First of all, his relationship with Aoi Ichiki was ordinary. They weren't familiar with each other at all. They were just casual acquaintances. When it came to love, both parties had to follow the will of each other. It was impossible to ignore the other party's opinion and ask her to agree just because one party was pitiful, liked more deeply, and looked more pitiful. He looked at the Kagawa River in front of him and remembered Rin Kiyono's words when he was in Ujigawa. The world won't be gentle to negative people, Watanabe-san. The world won't be gentle to people who are affectionate without permission. Toru Watanabe threw the stone in his hand. At this time, the sun had completely disappeared. The stone flew over the delta in the river and disappeared into the darkness. Did it reach the opposite bank? He wasn't sure. The wind started to blow. Perhaps it was because the Kagawa River was nearby, but the night wind that brushed past his cheeks was colder than a few days ago. Music could be heard from the other side of the river. It was probably the maverick students of Kyoto University playing. Toru Watanabe saw that it was about time. He clapped his hands and walked towards Mayasahi. Let's go back. Okay. Mayasahi's soft hand lifted her long hair, exuding a sweet fragrance. As they walked, she suddenly reached out and held Toru Watanabe's hand. Senpai. Toru Watanabe was shocked. Fortunately, the sky was dark and the moon hadn't risen yet. In order to avoid embarrassment, the two of them walked further away. The people on the bridge couldn't see them clearly. Are you scared? Of course. Mayasahi seemed to be satisfied with Toru Watanabe's reaction. She smiled and tilted her head slightly. Her silky black hair cascaded down as she moved. Toru Watanabe stared at her. Her clear eyes, moist lips, bulging uniform breasts, and smug lips. He reached out his hand and pinched her skirt, clad buttocks. You scared me. Mayasahi's delicate lips let out a breath that didn't hurt at all. She leaned her head on Toru Watanabe's shoulder and then grabbed Toru Watanabe's hand. She held it and avoided the slightly messy hem of her dress. Toru Watanabe patted her twice and then retracted his hand. Che. Mayasahi said with slight dissatisfaction. They're still waiting for us. Then I'll look for you tonight. I'll sleep in the boys' bunk tonight. Mayasahi reached out and covered Toru Watanabe's lower body. Did you give it all to Kujo? Let's be serious, okay, okay, Mayasahi smiled happily. At this moment, she suddenly blinked and lowered her head. Aren't you still very energetic? Today, the fortune teller said that I'm prone to excessive indulgence. I have to control myself so that I can continue to flow slowly. I see. Mayasahi's tone was flat, but the movement of her nodding was a little regretful. As a man, how could he reject his girlfriend when she showed such an expression? But when he thought about how he was almost found out last time, Toru Watanabe chose to remain silent. Being lustful and not in a hurry was the quality of a Tokyo handsome guy, he comforted himself. The two stood separately. In order to prevent any accidents, Toru Watanabe glanced at Mayasahi's skirt to prevent the skirt from being caught in her underwear due to carelessness. When they returned to the bridge, Aoi Ichiki had already sorted out her emotions. Toru Watanabe looked at Rin Kiyono. How is it? It's fine for now. Everyone, he said, let's go eat dinner together? Sorry, I'm a little tired. I want to go back and rest first. Aoi Ichiki bowed slightly and turned to walk towards the bus. I'll go back with Itsuki classmate. It's too dangerous to go alone. Osamu Kunai explained to Toru Watanabe and the others, and chased after her. Kyoto's public security isn't that bad, right? Keisuke Saito muttered to himself, and then whispered to Toru Watanabe. Could it be that this guy still likes Itsuki classmate? You look down on Yuri. How could that be? Don't accuse me. I'll get beaten up. That's Kunai's own business. Let him decide for himself. Toru Watanabe said. Let's go and eat. Okay, what are we eating? Keisuke Saito suddenly realized that there was only Toru Watanabe, Rin Kiyono, and the cold third-year senior left. Ah, I remember, the Silver Fire Dragon is still waiting for me. Bye-bye. Keisuke Saito chased after Osamu Kunai. Toru Watanabe realized that something was wrong. If Saito left, then there was only him and… yes, there's still the silver fire dragon. Toru Watanabe turned around and said to the two beautiful girls in a serious tone. Sorry, I have a mission. I have to go and suppress the elusive flying dragon. They've been dominating the sky with explosive flame and poison claw for too long. It's time to end it. With that, he was about to chase after Keisuke Saito. Come back. Kiyono classmate, I'm not lying to you. The silver fire dragon is really dangerous. I can't let Saito go alone. Who dominates the sky has nothing to do with me. It doesn't matter whether Keisuke Saito classmate is in danger or not. Watanabe classmate, you still owe me a cup of coffee, right? Old sport, dear Miss Kiyono, it's just a cup of coffee. Can't you do it next time? Toru Watanabe imitated Leonardo's Gatsby. Great Watanabe classmate, please, or not. Rin Kiyono was like Hamlet saying, to be or not to be. It's just that his acting was too bad. His eyes were as sharp as a knife. He didn't have Hamlet's self-pity. That's not a question, old sport. You know, I never refuse you. What kind of coffee do you want to drink? My Asahi's clear eyes were shining in the night. She used her beautiful eyes to size up the two people in front of her. There was a Starbucks a few steps east of the Neon Shoe Bridge. This Starbucks was integrated with the Zakiya bookstore next door. They could drink coffee and eat while reading. After eating, the three of them took the bus across from the bookstore to return to the East Mountain Villa. Through the window, they could enjoy the twilight of Kyoto. Looking up, they could vaguely see the black dots of crows circling in the sky not far away. After returning to his residence, Toru Watanabe took a shower and prepared to go see how Osamu Kanai was doing. As soon as he walked into the boys' bunk, he was pulled over by Osamu Kanai. Watanabe, you came at the right time. I was just about to go find you. What's wrong? Osamu Kanai looked around and after confirming that everyone else was playing games and didn't pay attention to them, he whispered, Itsuki classmate and I are going to sneak out tonight. Toru Watanabe looked at him in surprise and said with admiration, You're really something. No, what are you thinking? Osamu Kanai explained with a little red face, just now on the bus, I said, I'm also very sad today, Itsuki classmate, you're also very sad. Do you want to sneak out to an internet cafe to play games tonight? And she agreed. Internet cafe? Playing games. Toru Watanabe chewed on these two words. And then, why did you find me? Osamu Kanai said a little embarrassedly. After I came back, I realized that there was a teacher watching, so I couldn't sneak out. It's fine as long as you don't go out. There's no class tomorrow in Tokyo, so you two can play all day. You're doing this on purpose, right? Is this how you ask for help? Osamu Kanai immediately softened his tone. Watanabe, I can only ask you. I don't want to lose face in front of Itsuki classmate. Now that you know that Itsuki classmate likes girls, do you still want to keep in touch with her? To be honest, I'm actually relieved. Osamu Kanai smiled happily. And Toru Watanabe asked curiously, why? Tell me. If Itsuki classmate likes girls, then she won't be with a boy for the rest of her life. I'm very happy. You don't admit that Yuri is love. I'm going to expose you. Stop talking nonsense. Osamu Kanai pulled Toru Watanabe's sleeve. Are you going to help or not? I'm not sure if I can, but I'll do my best. With you, it'll definitely work. After agreeing to Osamu Kanai, Toru Watanabe went to find Aona Koizumi. The two female classrooms were in a separate room. Wearing a face mask and a bathrobe, Akiko was watching a TV show with her feet up. Koizumi, sensei, are you in charge of checking the female dormitory? Yes. Aona Koizumi nodded. What's wrong? She was also wearing a loose bathrobe, but her 88 centimeters bust was not to be underestimated. Sensei, tonight a few boys plan to sneak out to go online. Aoi Ichiki from class 3 is going as well. Can you help us cover it up? Online? How can that be? Aona Koizumi frowned and refused. The first year of high school is a once-in-a-lifetime trip. We want to do something different. No, what if something happens? Sensei, you have to believe that I have the highest intelligence in the country, and I have the stamina to kick a football 110 meters away. Only I can cause trouble for others, not to mention that there are a few of us. Aona Koizumi still shook her head. Sensei, Toru Watanabe pulled Aona Koizumi's bathrobe sleeve. Just this once. I'll send you a message every 20 minutes using the English alphabet as the secret code. I promise nothing will happen. Aona Koizumi pulled the collar of her bathrobe that was about to slide down and frowned for a while. Every 15 minutes, you have to take a picture and send it to me. Take a picture? Okay. Toru Watanabe let go of his hand and said with a smile, Sensei Koizumi, I like you too much. If I met you when you were 16, I would definitely be tempted. How can you talk to a sensei like that? Aona Koizumi pulled her collar up to her neck and knocked Toru Watanabe's head. Remember, send me a picture every 15 minutes, okay? Okay. After Toru Watanabe left, Huang Zi's line of sight was on TV. He asked Aona Koizumi, what did that guy do again? He said that the boys' dormitory is going to play mahjong all night. Toru Watanabe returned to the boys' dormitory and told Osamu Kanai, I'm sorry, I have to go with you. Kyoto's public security was pretty good. Osamu Kanai was also a member of the baseball club. Basically, nothing would happen at night, but there was always a possibility. Not only would something happen to the two of them, but it would also implicate the kind and gentle Aona Koizumi. Toru Watanabe had to go with them. It's okay. Anyways, classmate Itsuki doesn't like boys. Osamu Kanai happily sent a line to Aoya Chiki, reminding her not to wear the school uniform. Toru Watanabe also returned to his room and changed into his private clothes. As he was putting on his jacket and walking out of his room, he bumped into Rin Kiyono. She was wearing the school's required sportswear. Toru Watanabe had seen the sportswear worn by the other girls in the school. It was very rustic, but on her, it looked very fashionable. It was incredible. Was this the so-called difference in looks? Rin Kiyono crossed her arms and also looked at Toru Watanabe. Which girl are you going on a date with? Osamu Kojing wants to go to an internet cafe with Itsuki Kwai to play games to relieve the depression of being dumped. For safety's sake, I can only go with them. After Toru Watanabe finished his explanation, he asked her, by the way, Arashino-san, do you want to go? Not going. What will happen between two people who have fallen out of love? Isn't it worth observing? If that's the case. Rin Kiyono rubbed her chin and lowered her head in contemplation. Moreover, you've never been to an internet cafe, right? I've never been to an internet cafe. I don't have a good impression of that kind of place. We'll talk about it later. There's always value in trying, right? Toru Watanabe continued to persuade her. Moreover, don't worry, I'm here. If anyone dares to hit on you, I'll definitely break their legs. I don't recommend that. After all, if their legs are fine, they can go to the hospital themselves. Ah-san, you're too scary. Change scary to cute. It's good for your legs, to-san. Rin Kiyono said to Toru Watanabe with a smile. Cute is obvious, and scary is a new understanding of you after spending so much time with you. These two don't conflict. Its only meaning is that we're getting to know each other better. Enough, that's enough. Qingyi Rin sighed and pressed on his throbbing temples. Wait for me, I'll go change. Don't change. You're also very cute in sportswear. Is that so? Rin Kiyono looked at her sportswear. Anyway, you just like all kinds of uniforms, right? There's definitely no such thing. Ha! Chapter 170. Thank you for the matcha, everyone said it was delicious. I bought it for you, Kumiko, why should I give it to others? Ah. Can't I? Of course. Of course not, you can't read the notes on the bass and mathematics. Only you can read them. Oh, okay. Oh right, after you left, everyone said you were so handsome that they couldn't breathe. You're preparing to go to Tokyo University. Your prank worked. Of course. Looks like I can ask Tokyo University for labor fees. After all, I helped them with their enrollment. No, Tokyo University or something. What are you doing now? Packing your luggage? Or playing games with boys? Of course. On the way to the internet cafe. Of course. Photo. On the streets of Kyoto at night, a beautiful boy is eating octopus balls as if he's afraid of the heat. The white steam can be seen clearly. The octopus ball was golden, and its appearance was round and slightly yellowish. Why are you showing me this in the middle of the night? The internet cafes in Japan could be said to be a typical example of a lonely economy, a small grid, isolated from the rest of the world. Because Kiyono Kami-sama was there, Toru Watanabe chose the one with the best environment. There were 4 types of private rooms. According to the size, they were divided into flat and semi-flat. According to the number of people, they were divided into single, 2, 2, 3, and 4. Which one do you want? Osamu Kunai looked at the menu and asked. Anything is fine, but Kiyono classmate must be in the same room as me. Toru Watanabe said matter-of-factly. Osamu Kunai stared at him with wide eyes. Although Aoi Ichiki still looked pitiful, she also looked at Toru Watanabe. You two wanted to come out, I don't care if something happens, but Kiyono classmate was invited by me, and she's so beautiful, no matter how safe the place is, it will still be dangerous. Although Rin Kiyono was very smart, Toru Watanabe couldn't help but feel scared when he thought about her being alone in an internet cafe in a strange city. Seino Rin glanced at Toru Watanabe and remained silent. He didn't object. Can you not be so honest? Osamu Kunai was speechless. No one wants to hear your inhumane truth. Toru Watanabe clenched his right fist and hit the palm of his left hand. That's right, I'm such an honest person. He looked at Osamu Kunai with gratified eyes. Rin Kiyono sighed and said, That's enough. Hurry up and choose the set meal for 4 people. After making their choices, Osamu Kunai and Aoi Ichiki took the keycard and went to the private room upstairs. Unlike the ordinary Japanese internet cafes, which were made up of partitions, the private rooms in this internet cafe were decorated like real rooms. The overall environment was very clean, and the computer equipment was better. There were showers on different floors. Toru Watanabe deliberately replied in a helpless tone. He sent a message to Keisuke Saito and clicked on the camera function. He took a picture of the 4 of them and sent it to Aona Koizumi. After doing all this, he moved closer to Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono leaned back slightly and watched his fingers quickly typing on the keyboard. Okay. As soon as Toru Watanabe sat back down, Rin Kiyono immediately saw a female character in a nurse's uniform on the screen. Okay. Toru Watanabe cleared his throat and pointed at a spot on the screen. This is the wardrobe. You can change your clothes. Rin Kiyono glanced at him and clicked on the wardrobe with the mouse. At this time, Keisuke Saito also sent his account password. Toru Watanabe quickly logged in. Keisuke Saito's character was a female character in a pink bunny. Are you done? He turned his head and asked the 3 of them. He glanced over and saw that the female character on Rin Kiyono's screen had already put on the simplest short-sleeved shirt and jeans. Start. Osamu Kunai's tone didn't sound like a person who had just fallen out of love. The 4 accounts were already friends, so they skipped the tedious process of adding friends and directly entered the preparation stage. Toru Watanabe explained the general controls to Rin Kiyono. After only saying it once, Rin Kiyono nodded and said, I remember. Remember is remember, but whether or not you can press the buttons you want when you're thinking about it is another matter. Rin Kiyono didn't refute and controlled the character to do all kinds of actions. The flight path from left to right perfectly divided Alenger Island into two halves. Considering that it was Rin Kiyono's first time playing, they chose to fight in the wild along the coast of K-Town. Classmate Rin Kiyono, I have a buggy here. Osamu Kunai shouted in the sky. I see it too. Aoi Ichiki controlled her character to float over. Toru Watanabe found a motorcycle and adjusted his position while looking at Rin Kiyono, who was still floating in the sky. When Rin Kiyono landed, he stopped right in front of her. After honking twice, Toru Watanabe said, Miss, do you want to go for a ride by the beach? Rin Kiyono made her character stand still and looked around before slowly getting on the motorcycle. Hold on tight. Toru Watanabe turned the motorcycle around and sped towards the beach road. Classmate Rin Kiyono, I have an M4 here, do you want it? You can take it yourself. It's okay, my M16 is faster than a fully automatic. Okay then, thank you, classmate Guajing. What's an M4? Rin Kiyono switched to the menu and familiarized herself with the various functions of the game. It's a type of gun, the full name is M416, there are others. The motorcycle stopped in front of a housing area. You search the left, I'll search the right. Toru Watanabe said as he jumped off the motorcycle and ran towards the housing area. He quickly searched his own area and did not rush him. He drove the motorcycle over and waited for Rin Kiyono. After a while, Rin Kiyono controlled her character to run out. Toru Watanabe glanced at her. Good lord, a level 3 helmet, a level 2 vest, a level 2 backpack, and a 4x scope on Scar. He then looked at himself, a green level 1 helmet, a level 1 backpack, a Thompson submachine gun, and a revolver on his thigh. When they reached the next resource point, they finally found a level 2 helmet and a level 2 backpack. This circle was not bad. With Yasnaya Polyana as the center, the 4 people near K-Town could slowly search. After the second circle, the 4 of them met up. Ha 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 ha, Watanabe, why are you so poor? Osamu Kunai laughed loudly. Aoi Ichiki also laughed. Although her voice was low and she was not very happy, she still laughed. Why don't you let Kiyono give you the equipment? She said with a smile. No need, no need. Why should a newbie serve an experienced player? When playing a game, Toru Watanabe would care if his teammates were happy or not. He would not ask others to give up their equipment, regardless of whether they were newbies or not, unless they had extra equipment or it was an emergency. Rin Kiyono probably knew that Toru Watanabe's equipment was very poor. She smiled and said, I'll give you a gun. You won't be able to perform well even if you use assault rifle. That's fine too. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Toru Watanabe asked. Hurry up. Rin Kiyono's tone was serious. Then I'll take the AK. After considering the difficulty for newbies, Toru Watanabe chose this gun. After the 2 of them changed their guns, Osamu Kunai said loudly, Let's go go go. Let's kill our way into Yasnaya Polyana. Don't rush too far ahead. Aoi Ichiki, who was sitting behind him, reminded him. Don't worry. Osamu Kunai pressed the voice button. The voice of the voice actress Jiang Shashu came, no problem. What's this? Rin Kiyono asked. Voice packs for popular voice actresses. Osamu Kunai said, Watanabe has a lot of them in his account. You can press. Stop it, Guojing. So annoying. The female voice actress by the name of Misace Chi, her voice filled with a black-bellied aura, rang out. So that's how it is. Rin Kiyono nodded in understanding. So that's what you like. Although she didn't look at anyone when she said that, Toru Watanabe felt a chill run down his spine. No, it's mainly because I can't get the voice pack for Kana Hanazawa. I've told you about this before. He explained while driving the motorcycle. Watanabe. Osamu Kunai said, You should give up. Kana Hanazawa is already married. Accept reality and become a fan of Yui Ogura with me. Shut up, I'll wait until she gets a divorce. Don't keep talking, it's making me unhappy. Okay. Toru Watanabe shut up. Rin Kiyono liked this voice actress's disdainful tone. It was very convenient to use. What's the name of the person who made this voice? She asked. Mise Misaki. Her real name is Kiyono Arisa. Osamu Kunai replied. She has the same surname as Kiyono classmate. Do they know each other? Aoi Ichiki asked. Rin Kiyono thought for a moment. I don't have any relatives named Arisa. Putting aside the voice pack, before the four of them even reached Yasnaya Pollyanna, they were already shot at by the people on the roof of the prison building. Should we just rush over? Osamu Kunai said this because Aoi Ichiki was on his motorcycle. If it was any other time, he would have already rushed over. No, we'll stop at the slope in front. Aoi Ichiki said hurriedly. On the way to the prison building, there was a small slope. There was also a small house near the slope. The four of them stopped there. Toru Watanabe said to Rin Kiyono, Kiyono classmate, why don't you take this opportunity to fight with them? I'll help you up if you fall. Okay. Rin Kiyono nodded her head decisively. As soon as she poked her head out, she couldn't find anyone. All she could hear was the sound of bullets flying past her ears. Then, her HP dropped rapidly. In the end, she knelt on the ground with a thud. Our numbers are a little high, Toru Watanabe said as he pulled her up. It's best if you fire 2 shots and immediately retreat. Are you saying that I'm not as good as you guys? How much did I skip before you came to this conclusion from my words? Humph. Rin Kiyono's stubborn temper rose. Just as she stood up and healed herself, she immediately started to fight again. 1 shot. Osamu Kunai shouted from the side. Then, he was knocked out as well. As Aoi Ichiki helped him up, he mumbled to himself, there are 4 of them. I can't do anything about it. None of them are a match for me in a one-on-one fight. Yeah. Aoi Ichiki was already used to his stubbornness. Just like that, Toru Watanabe supported Rin Kiyono while Aoi Ichiki supported Osamu Kunai. They started to shoot at Yasnaya Pollyanna. While supporting Osamu Kunai, Aoi Ichiki would also fire 2 shots. From Toru Watanabe's point of view, this kind of fighting style was purely a waste of bullets. When Rin Kiyono realized that it was meaningless to replenish her HP every time she was knocked out, the circle refreshed. They weren't in the circle, but the players from Yasnaya Pollyanna were. Let's drive away, Aoi Ichiki suggested. Okay. After Osamu Kunai agreed, he fired a few more shots. This guy called Dacta has been knocked out 3 times by me. Okay, let's go. Aoi Ichiki was already sitting in the back seat of the buggy. Osamu Kunai immediately sat in the driver's seat. They stayed close to the edge of the circle and prepared to enter Yasnaya Pollyanna. We'll scout the path. Remember to follow the path we took. After that, the 2 of them sped away. Toru Watanabe, who stayed in the same spot, said to Rin Kiyono, it's about time for us to leave. Teammates should live and die together. With your personality that only knows how to kill, who would dare to live with you? Before Toru Watanabe could finish his words, he, who was agile and had excellent hearing, clearly heard the sound of a thud. He hurriedly shouted, There's thunder! Kiyono, run! Rin Kiyono ignored him and stared at the 4 seconds left on the rescue timer. It's not an instant bomb. Run! 3, 2. Boom. For a moment, they couldn't hear anything other than the sound of thunder. The computer screen seemed to be shaking. You scared me to death. Toru Watanabe hurriedly healed himself. Qing Yilin opened his backpack and healed himself, which had lost almost half of his health. How do you know you won't die from the explosion? Toru Watanabe squatted up and down, twisting his body as he drank an energy drink. I don't know. Rin Kiyono's tone was a little excited. Although this game was boring, it was indeed exciting at critical moments. If you don't know, why don't you leave? Do I need to listen to your orders? Rin Kiyono said unhappily. You're free to do as you please. At this moment, a familiar voice came from the prison building. The two idiots downstairs, come up if you dare. They were from the same hometown. The two teary-eyed Toru Watanabe turned on all his microphones. The four people upstairs have no parents. Come down if you dare. Come up if you dare. I'll beat you to death. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. I rushed into the plains, and with your shooting skills? Ha. F***ck your mother. The one upstairs had a very strong self-esteem and temper. Tell me your address if you dare. I'll hack you to death. Toru Watanabe replied loudly, Home, Shanghai, Nanjing Road, Suzhou Bridge, Beijing Street, Shangsha District, Unit 1, 201. If you don't come, you're my grandson. Just you wait. F***ck. Toru Watanabe laughed and said to Rin Kiyono, this idiot. Rin Kiyono had an amused expression and lectured, Don't curse. Then let him go. Watanabe, what did you say just now? Osamu Kunai asked. I met someone from the same hometown. My dialect, you guys don't understand. The dialect of Iwate Prefecture, it sounds a bit like Chinese, Aoyachiki said. Yeah, it does sound like it. Bang! A gunshot was heard. Toru Watanabe was shocked and thought that it was from upstairs. Kiyono-san, what are you doing? Accidentally. While waiting for the circle to shrink, Toru Watanabe took out his phone, took a selfie, and sent it to Aona Koizumi. As the circle shrank, Osamu Kunai and Keisuke Saito were the first to be killed because they entered the circle. Toru Watanabe and Aoi Ichiki were hiding in the corner, which had always been a safe zone. With the people upstairs helping to look after Yasnaya Pollyanna, it became the safest place for a while. Unfortunately, the last circle was at the prison building, and the two of them had to risk their lives to rush in. Toru Watanabe listened carefully to the footsteps and confirmed the approximate location. There are two of them at the stairs, he said to Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono frowned. How strong are you? It's not a problem for me to kill all of them alone. Okay, you go up. No, I'm talking about the reality. Toru Watanabe said, the game has to follow the rules. If I rush up like this, I can only kill two at most. Rin Kiyono fell into deep thought. No one knew if he was thinking about whether he could kill the other two or if he was thinking about other tactics. As time went on, Toru Watanabe killed 3 people who ran into the prison building from Yasnaya Pollyanna. Initially, he wanted to add some throwables from these people. Unfortunately, the people who were able to make it here had already run out of ammo. They didn't even have a single stun grenade. In the end, only the 4 people upstairs and Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono were left. The enemies were at the stairs on the 2nd floor, and they were guarding the 1st floor. Kiyono classmate is too strong. She entered the final circle on her first time playing. Aoi Ichiki said in admiration. The controls are simple. Most of the time was wasted on the shooting just now. There's nothing to boast about. Rin Kiyono calmly analyzed the situation. She's already very strong. This isn't a newbie account. Osamu Kunai added, Isn't that right, Watanabe? For normal people, she's very strong. But for Kiyono classmate, this level of skill is only natural. But just now, she stood on the grenade to save me. That's really enough. Rin Kiyono interrupted Toru Watanabe. What we should do now is to think of a way to win the match. As they were talking, the people upstairs suddenly fired at the stairs. What are they doing? Rin Kiyono frowned. They've lost their patience, or are they provoking? Before she could finish, Toru Watanabe suddenly turned around and fired. There were actually 2 people who jumped down under the cover of the gunshots, trying to catch the 2 of them off guard. Caught off guard, they knocked out 1 person and fired 2 more shots at the other person. Toru Watanabe was knocked out as well. Rin Kiyono reacted quickly and fired 2 more shots, knocking out the other person as well. After knocking out the other person, she immediately squatted down to revive Toru Watanabe. "Don't worry about me. Watch the stairs." Toru Watanabe quickly shouted and turned on all the voice chat. Sure enough, someone was screaming, "One down! One down! They're pulling people! They're pulling people!" The people upstairs hesitated for a moment before rushing down. "They're here!" Toru Watanabe shouted to remind Rin Kiyono. However, Rin Kiyono ignored him and continued to save him. This made Toru Watanabe very anxious. "Look at the stairs. Sister. Don't worry about me." Chapter 171. Arrived safely. Aona Koizumi clicked on the photo. It was a selfie of Toru Watanabe. After confirming that the background was really East Mountain Villa, she finally couldn't hold back her sleepiness and fell asleep. Her cell phone gradually slid to the ground with a dull thud. "Aona, what dropped?" Huang Zi shouted. Seeing that Aona Koizumi didn't respond, she got up and walked over. "Are you asleep?" She picked up her cell phone as she spoke. The screen hadn't turned off yet, and Toru Watanabe's face was zoomed in on it. "This brat, he doesn't have any flaws even after zooming in." Huang Zi kept zooming in on every part of his face with the thought that she had to find his flaws. While she was staring at his nose, desperately trying to find any flaws, she suddenly realized something. Aona fell asleep while looking at this photo. She quickly zoomed in on the photo. It was a chat with Toru Watanabe online. Just as she was about to scroll through the chat, she paused. The two of them grew up together and became close since high school. It's been 9 years since then. But does this give me the right to casually look at Aona's chat history? Suppressing her strong curiosity, Huang Zi quietly put the cell phone back, slipped back into bed, and took out her own cell phone. "Miyuki, let me tell you something important." November 6th, Friday. No matter how bustling the city was, it would still be as silent as a ruin at dawn. Toru Watanabe ran on the bluestone road in Sanioka. A thin layer of white floated in the transparent air. Soon, it would be the day when autumn would completely turn into autumn. After returning to East Mountain Villa, he slowly took a shower, changed his clothes, and walked to the dining hall. He originally thought that no one would be there, but in the end, there were still students eating in 2s and 3s. The yawning Rin Kiyono was also among them. Yesterday, it was Yuji and Inagawa. At night, he even dragged her to an internet cafe. It was expected that she would be too tired to get up in the morning. Toru Watanabe walked to the corner where Rin Kiyono was and sat down across from her. "Good morning, Kiyono-san." "Good morning." There was an unconcealable sleepiness in her greeting. "I'm starting." After Rin Kiyono finished speaking, she poked the half-boiled egg with her chopsticks. The egg yolk flowed out of the membrane and spread on the egg white. As a familiar face, Toru Watanabe could not turn a blind eye to such a scene. "Kiyono classmate, has anyone ever told you that you're an overly serious person?" Rin Kiyono swallowed the egg in her mouth and drank a mouthful of warm miso soup. After doing all this, she looked up at Toru Watanabe. "What do you want now? What do you mean by, what do you want to do again? Did I do anything? I just want to discuss with you on this beautiful morning. If you have something to say, just say it." Rin Kiyono interrupted him rudely. Tactful and gentle girls were adorable, and a straightforward personality wasn't annoying either. "It's like this." Toru Watanabe paused for a moment. "Do you want to try the hard-boiled egg?" Rin Kiyono stared at Toru Watanabe expressionlessly for a long time. Just when Toru Watanabe thought that he unintentionally added a point of charm to himself after falling asleep last night, Rin Kiyono spoke. "I see." Her expression was as if she had solved a math problem before Toru Watanabe, and her tone was full of condescension. "Are you a familiar face?" "What does it have to do with being a familiar face?" "I just want you, Kiyono classmate, to try different things. There are all kinds of things in this world. Lies. It's a lie, but I still want you to try it. Toru Watanabe used the chopsticks that he didn't have time to use to pick up the uneaten hard-boiled egg and put it into Rin Seino's bowl. Rin Kiyono glanced at the egg. I don't care about other things, but I won't back down on this. She picked up the hard-boiled egg with her chopsticks and put it back into Toru Watanabe's bowl. It's just a taste, is it okay? Toru Watanabe put the egg back into her bowl. If it's just a normal taste, of course it's okay. Rin Kiyono returned the egg to him again. A familiar face sent me a hard-boiled egg. This is a provocation, a war. Toru Watanabe put down his chopsticks and stared at Rin Kiyono expressionlessly. After a while he said, "You're not giving me face? Forcing a friend who likes half-boiled eggs to eat a hard-boiled egg. Is this your so-called face?" Rin Kiyono's gaze was cold and full of reproach. The two of them stared at each other without moving for a long time. Toru Watanabe's eyes moved, and Rin Seino couldn't hold it in any longer. He turned his face away and laughed. Toru Watanabe also laughed. Now that I think about it, even though we've argued many times, we've never really argued before. Oh, Watanabe-san is quite confident. Do you think you can out-argue me? You want to win even over this? Do you have a problem with that? Nothing, I just feel that Kiyono-san's stubbornness is cute. I really want to touch your leg, I wonder what it'll feel like. Watanabe-san. Yes? Can you please stay away from me? I can't stand you anymore. Rin Kiyono didn't hide her extreme disgust. Toru Watanabe took a bite of the hard-boiled egg with a thoughtful expression. Don't you think it's strange? He said, if you say that I'm obsessed with legs, then so be it. But I'm not interested in other people's legs at all. When I walk on the road, I don't look at girls' legs. Only you, Kiyono-san, I never get tired of looking at them. What do you think about this? Because I'm the most beautiful. Rin Kiyono said the truth half-heartedly. I see, the answer is so simple. Usually I'm the only one thinking. The more I think about it, the stranger it gets. It even feels inconceivable. By the way, does this count as self-observation? Self-observation. The girl sitting across from him repeated these words with a hopeless helplessness. After finishing their last breakfast in Kyoto, the Kanagawa High School students boarded the bus to Kyoto Station. The Silver Fire Dragon is already a defeated opponent. We will continue our great journey towards the Golden Fire Dragon. Osamu Kunai raised his arm and loudly declared his ambition. Last night I tried it by myself. I was so angry that I almost deleted the game. Your Uncle Kunai is here. Leave everything to me. Toru Watanabe didn't understand at all. How did a crusade against monsters in a game become a great journey? No matter what, it should at least be something like making Rin Kiyono a complete friend. Only then would it be considered great, right? While opening the game, Toru Watanabe looked out of the window. The sky was scattered with thin clouds, like white cotton candy that had been pulled into wisps. The bus to Kyoto Station was running under such a sky. While the Golden Fire Dragon was showing its might and the four of them were exhausted and falling, the bus arrived at Kyoto Station. Everyone has 20 minutes to move freely. You can go to the souvenir shop if you want, but remember, you can't leave the station. Do you hear me? Yes. The youthful and lively voice attracted the envious, curious, and nostalgic gazes of the passers-by. Toru Watanabe didn't go to the souvenir shop. Last night, before going to bed, he had a video call with Miki Kujo. She clearly rejected his suggestion to bring souvenirs. The milady's original words were, "What can you buy with the little money you have?" Even though she said this, she was still wearing the cheap ring that Toru Watanabe gave her. According to the calculation that 1 point could be exchanged for 100 yen, 1,000 points was only 100,000 yen. For Miki Kujo, if she could earn 10 yen for every step she took, she would be too lazy to move. Apart from her, no one else in Tokyo asked Toru Watanabe to bring souvenirs. Since he didn't need to buy anything, he had nothing to do. He wandered around the station and unknowingly came to the hall of the station concert. The 4,000 pieces of glass were still hanging high in the dome. The first time he came to Kyoto, the system's task was to get Lena's signature. Lena was indeed outstanding in all aspects to be chosen by the system. She had a beautiful appearance, a large chest, a maverick personality, and a small extraordinary ability. But Toru Watanabe wasn't interested in her. On the contrary, Kumiko really wanted to be friends with her. He really wanted to see Kumiko again. He was about to leave Kyoto and didn't know when they would meet again. This thought suddenly popped up in his mind. It was 9:30 in the morning and the second class had just begun. What class was she in? Kamigawa's second class on Friday was mathematics. Would Kitayoshi's class also be mathematics? She looked at the answers one by one, and finally put the test paper back on the table and pressed it with an eraser. Looking around the classroom, all the students were seriously solving the questions. This reading comprehension test was very difficult, and she was the one who set the questions. After looking around, she looked at the book in Toru Watanabe's hand in boredom. Toru Watanabe was analyzing one of the sentences in the novel. Rather than saying that he was reading the novel, it was better to say that he was studying it. Aona Koizumi even thought of asking Toru Watanabe not to do anything else during the English test. It's not that she didn't allow it, but he was working too hard. At least take a break during the test. After the bell rang. The student in front, please take the test paper. Some students who didn't have time to finish the test cried out. After Aona Koizumi took the test paper and left, Keisuke Saito immediately came over. Watanabe, the third reading comprehension test, the main idea of the essay, what did you choose? C. The past of Cressy and Lashel. I'm so angry. Keisuke Saito regretfully held his head. I wanted to choose this at first, but I changed it to D, the memory of Cressy and Francois. I also chose D. Sitting in front of Toru Watanabe, Ikeda Kazumi, who could dance Cherry Maru, turned around and joined the conversation. You too. Osamu Kunai angrily said, don't believe in authority, why is Toru Watanabe's answer always right? Makes sense. Toru Watanabe nodded in agreement. Koizumi, you also chose D? Ikeda Kazumi curiously asked. See, hee. You, disgusting. Ikeda Kazumi leaned back and looked at Osamu Kunai as if she couldn't stand it. This question is obviously C. Although the whole essay is about the conversation between Cressy and Francois, it's mainly about the past of Cressy and Lashel. You should have a limit to your carelessness. After Osamu Kunai proudly analyzed the solution to the question, everyone's topic returned to daily life. Kuen Watanabe, Ikeda Kazumi snickered, how was Kyoto? You guys colluded, right? Toru Watanabe remembered that girls took turns to confess to him and looked at her helplessly. They begged me, what can I do? By the way, during the bonfire party, will you dance with Kujo-san? Bonfire party? Toru Watanabe asked doubtfully. Osamu Kunai explained, it's a winter camping event in December, and there will be a bonfire party on the last day. It is said that during the final song, the two dancers will meet. Keisuke Saito added. Ito-san's lesson is still vivid in my mind, and you still dare to hold a bonfire party? Toru Watanabe said. Ito-san? Ikeda Kazumi looked at the girl surnamed Ito-san in the class. It's not Ito-san from our class. Keisuke Saito said with a smile. It's the male protagonist of an anime called Day on Campus. Because there were many girls who wanted to dance with him at the bonfire party, his head was cut off in the end. The plot was roughly like this, but his head was not directly related to the bonfire party. Isn't this Kuen Watanabe's future? Ikeda Kazumi pointed at Toru Watanabe with a surprised expression. You did it on purpose, right? Ikeda Kazumi snickered and nodded. Didn't you just finish your study trip? How come there's another activity? Why didn't Koizumi, Sensei say anything? Toru Watanabe doubtfully asked. There were too many activities in Japan schools, almost every month. This is a common occurrence. Ikeda Kazumi played with her ponytail. Last year it was spring camping, and this year it will definitely be winter camping, and the time will probably be December. Isn't that still early? Reminiscing the past, Watanabe. Osamu Kanai heavily patted Toru Watanabe's shoulder. He completely couldn't hear what he was saying. Toru Watanabe looked at his excited expression and suspiciously looked at him. You wouldn't be planning to invite Itoki classmate to dance, right? Koizumi likes Itoki? Ikeda Kazumi was surprised. How is that possible? Don't talk nonsense. Osamu Kanai exaggeratedly rejected. Alright, speaking of camping, have you guys watched Swaying Camping? Oren-chan is so cute. Toru Watanabe stood up and pressed Osamu Kanai down on the desk at lightning speed. You don't deserve to be Oren-chan. I'm talking about Shima Rin, not Kiyono classmate. Osamu Kanai quickly explained. Shima Rin is also mine. Yours is yours, then I'll choose Nadeshiko. Nadeshiko has already registered with me. I'll fight you. Ouch ouch ouch. Stop. I'll choose Inusama. Osamu Kanai wailed. No, you can only choose Bamboo Wheel. You're crazy. Bamboo Wheel is a dog. Watanabe. Don't go too far. Keisuke Saito and Ikeda Kazumi laughed out loud, and the other students of Class 4 kept glancing at them. Outside the classroom, the sky was white and the clouds were white. It was a brief moment of comfort in the busy school life. Chapter 172. At 3:30, the bell rang for the end of class. Everyone, remember to go back and summarize. Studying after the test papers are handed out is very important. Yes, Seiji packed up his textbooks and put his pencil and eraser back into his pencil case. Watanabe, Koi and I are on duty today. You can go first, no need to wait for us. Okay. Toru Watanabe closed his backpack, put his chair under his desk, and walked out of the classroom. A boy rushed out of the front door of Class 3, followed by an angry girl holding a blackboard eraser. This couple, it seems like they have a running game every day after school. You two should go get married. Don't leave chalk all over the hallway. Toru Watanabe waved his right hand in front of his nose. The chalk was pushed away like water, but it was quickly filled back up. In just a few moments, Toru Watanabe saw Rin Kiyono come out of Class 1 and quickly disappear down the hallway. Humph, the tool that opened the door. Cough, cough. Toru Watanabe hurriedly left the area covered by the chalk dust. He went up to the 5th floor of the school building and walked down the hallway leading to the club building. He heard the sound of instruments being practiced in the music classroom on the 3rd floor. Horns. This sound must belong to Aizawa. He's improved a lot. Toru Watanabe reminisced about the days when he and Aizawa competed for the title of Lena's #1 fan. He entered the human observation department that he hadn't seen for 7 days. The sun was setting in the west. A girl was sitting by the window reading a book. Toru Watanabe sat down in his seat, took out Memories of Time Like Water, and glanced at the empty sofa. Miki Kujo didn't show up for the entire day. I boiled some water. If you want to drink tea, you can make it yourself. Rin Kiyono looked at the book in her hand. You're not going to help me? This is the only employee benefit, and it's also the reason why I insist on coming to the club every day. You can't be too capitalist, Kiyono-san. I've always been the descendant of a capitalist. On the other hand, you, Watanabe-san, were born in a peasant family, yet you don't have the qualities of being simple, introverted, and honest. Rin Kiyono's gaze swept across the hardcover book line by line. What prejudice do you have against farmers? You're really... Rin Kiyono sighed. She put down the book and got up to make Toru Watanabe a cup of the bitterest green tea, saying, I'm biased against you. Thank you. In addition, Prejudice means that you look at a problem with subjective emotions. So, Kiyono-san, Toru Watanabe picked up his tea and gently blew on it. What kind of subjective feelings do you have towards me? Is it love? Rin Kiyono returned to her seat. I think you're a person with an excessive sense of self. That's my prejudice against you. You mean I'm confident? Toru Watanabe pointed at her with his teacup and said with a smile, I'm not straightforward, but since you're so beautiful. Can you keep quiet? Can't you see that I'm reading? If you don't even know this basic etiquette, I suggest you. Toru Watanabe frowned and swallowed the tea with difficulty. Why is it so bitter? Rin Kiyono looked at his slightly distorted face and the cold expression behind the book, and laughed. The conversation between the two started casually, and ended abruptly. They both continued to read their books seriously. As the sun gradually darkened, Toru Watanabe was trying to figure out how to translate the phrase, when a person sleeps, he keeps the wheels of time around him, year after year, the stars of heaven and earth, in perfect order, French. When there was a crisp knock on the door. Rin Kiyono stopped flipping the pages and put a bookmark on it. Come in. Sorry to disturb you. Aoi Ichiki walked in. Toru Watanabe glanced at her, then looked away and continued to rack his brains over the complicated French sentences. Aoi Ichiki sat in front of Rin Kiyono and put a stack of papers between them. Kiyono-san, this is the report I promised to give you. Thank you. Rin Kiyono poured her a cup of black tea. No, I should be the one thanking you. You've helped me so much. Rin Kiyono nodded, but didn't reach out to take the report. Instead, she crossed her arms and asked, Yamiki-san, if you were to go back to the time before your study trip, what would you do? Aoi Ichiki was silent for a long time, seriously considering this question. I would probably still confess. She smiled bitterly. I've liked Minato for so long, if I don't do something, my life won't be able to continue. I understand. Rin Kiyono nodded. Then, her expression suddenly relaxed. Although it still couldn't be considered gentle, it was enough to make people feel at ease. You've already tried your best, Yamiki-san. She said softly. Why are you saying this? Ha ha ha. Aoi Ichiki scratched her head embarrassedly, but her voice wasn't happy, and it was filled with loneliness. After Aoi Ichiki left, Rin Kiyono picked up the report and began to read it page by page. After reading for a while, she put the report down, closed her eyes, and rubbed her forehead tiredly. What's wrong? Toru Watanabe finally finished translating and asked. Struggle, wavering, anticipation, pain, hesitation, and a large psychological description, as well as fantasizing about success and failure. It's a detailed report, but I can't deal with this kind of monologue that's similar to a love letter. You reap what you sow. Toru Watanabe mocked her mercilessly. It's your fault for taking on this mission. Rin Kiyono opened her eyes and took out the few reports that she had finished reading. You read them for me too, the girl said in a fierce tone. Why should I? You want to know the power of the minister. If it weren't for the fact that she was beautiful and refined, with a slim waist and beautiful legs, as well as the fact that she was his most important friend and was indeed the head of the Human Observation Department, Toru Watanabe would have pinched her proud little face and forced down the bitter tea in front of him that he didn't want to drink a second sip. Yeah, that's right. So what if he confesses? Senpai is going to university, and there are countless outstanding boys and girls there. I only hope that Senpai can live happily in the future. But, what if he succeeds? Wearing home clothes with Senpai to go grocery shopping with Senpai, squeezing on the narrow kitchen counter to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sleeping in Senpai's arms at night. In the future, when we're financially independent, we can consider moving to a bigger house. No. A smaller one is better, that way, we can always lean on Senpai. Kue, don't let your imagination run wild. This is just your wishful thinking. How could Senpai fall in love with someone like you? Osamu Tezuji once said in his book, Human Disqualification, he came from the sea of people, only to give me empty joy. But Osamu Tezuji also said, try to avoid the pain, but you miss all the joy. So, even if you're destined to fail, suffer, and regret, you still have to try, right? In Setting Sun, Osamu Tezuji also wrote, we were born for love and revolution. Toru Watanabe leaned back in his chair and looked out the window weakly. The skyscrapers in Shinjuku that served as the backdrop suddenly had a charm that it didn't have before, compared to the Aoi Ichiki love story in his hand. Tear up the flyer? He said. Rin Kiyono sighed and nodded reluctantly. After school, Toru Watanabe threw the faded flyer with the words, to help you achieve love, if you need it, please come to the Human Observation Department on the 5th floor, into the trash can. As for the Aoi Ichiki love story, it was placed on the Human Observation Department's bookshelf. Other than Rin Kiyono and Toru Watanabe, no one else would look at it due to the Human Observation Department's necessity. After that day, no one else visited the Human Observation Department. Time seemed to have returned to spring, the season when no one disturbed them. On Friday, the cold wind blew across the field, and the leaves of the beech trees in the courtyard covered the flower beds. Masahi suddenly asked Toru Watanabe out for coffee on Saturday. The next day, November 14th, Saturday. It rained for a few days this week, but today, it began to clear up, and the temperature rose slightly. He wore a white short-sleeved casual jacket, red, with black cuffs. It was dry and cool. He wore a black diving watch on his wrist, and navy khaki pants on his lower body. Paired with Toru Watanabe's handsome and clean white face, he looked like an idol or an aristocrat. Of course, these were all Miki Kujo's preferences. Toru Watanabe didn't have the right to say anything, nor did he have the desire to say anything. The date was at a coffee shop near the Gunzu Art Museum in Omotesando. The walls of the coffee shop were covered with vines, like a cabin in the forest. Toru Watanabe sat at a white table outside the door, with a large parasol above his head, blocking the falling maple leaves. What do you need? A waitress who worked part-time as a university student came over. A cup. Toru Watanabe studied the menu. The waitress's gaze couldn't help but fall on the side of his face as he was deep in thought. A cup of Giramazaro. Toru Watanabe returned the menu to the waitress. Thank you. Okay. The waitress came back to her senses, quickly wrote something, and said in a gentle tone, "It'll be done soon." She turned around and entered the coffee shop. Before Masahi arrived, Toru Watanabe sat alone, leisurely drinking Giramazaro. At the table next to him, there were 3 female high school students. 2 of them were looking at each other's nails, while the other was adding sugar to her coffee. Opposite him, by a bed of blooming chrysanthemums, a couple was whispering to each other, with shopping bags from Uniqlo at their feet. At the entrance of the Gunzu Art Museum, there was an exhibition notice for Drawing Monogatari, playing cards from Dynasty Monogatari to Ogamakusa. The sky was clear, and there was a steady breeze. Toru Watanabe's right hand was on the table, and his index finger was gently stroking his lower lip. He turned his face slightly, and his eyes were casually looking at the passers-by. His every move was the style of a beautiful boy. Any girl, as long as they sat across from him, would be mesmerized. The originally empty entrance of the coffee shop was gradually filled with half of the people. The 3 female high school students looked at him from time to time, whispering and joking with each other. At this moment, a young girl in a white dress walked towards them on the sunny street. The sound of her slender legs pacing on the floor, and the short skirt that faintly reached her knees, her slender figure could be seen even through the clothes. "Have you been waiting for a long time?" "I don't hate waiting for people." The waitress came over, and Masahi didn't take the menu. She looked at Toru Watanabe and said, "Please give me a cup of the same as his." "Okay, please wait a moment." Toru Watanabe looked at Masahi. Different from wearing the school uniform, she had changed into private clothes. She, who was almost 18 years old, vaguely showed a mature charm, looking natural and elegant. Her eyes were still crystal clear, making people's hearts beat faster. "I'm wearing light pink today, with beautiful lace." "My-san, You don't have to report everything to me. My Asahi tilted her head slightly and looked at him in confusion. You don't like it? Light pink lace, it should be very beautiful. Toru Watanabe took a sip of coffee. My Asahi's gaze swept across his lips on the cup and slid over his rolling Adam's apple. When Toru Watanabe put down the coffee, she naturally reached out and took a sip. Fortunately, Miki Kujo no longer sent people to follow him after returning from Kyoto. Senpai Mai, why did you ask me out today? My Asahi put down the coffee cup and stroked the cup with her fingers. I'm about to graduate, and I want to spend more time with Toru. Toru Watanabe looked at her, somewhat helpless. Senpai, if possible, I also want to spend more time with you, but it's for your own good. Besides, Miki is my girlfriend. The right choice is for us to meet less. I understand. My Asahi was expressionless as she replied indifferently. The waitress brought the coffee and looked at the cup in front of my Asahi in confusion. Finally, she hesitated and put the new coffee in front of Toru Watanabe. Thank you. Toru Watanabe thanked her and took a sip. Medium roasted, with a sweet and light sour taste, with a unique cocoa fruit aroma, and a strong mellow taste. Toru Watanabe couldn't taste any of these things written on the menu. After the waitress left, my Asahi said, "But you won't leave me, right?" "Of course, I promise you." Toru Watanabe put down the coffee and said with a smile, "Senpai, you won't allow me to leave you, right?" "If Toru is willing, I'll be very happy." "That's scary." "Yes." My Asahi nodded and didn't deny it. "Toru, where do you live now?" "Where do you live?" "Why?" "I moved out of the university to live alone. I want to be closer to Toru." Toru Watanabe sat up straight and chose his words carefully. "My senpai, let's make a deal that we can't be found out by Miki." "Yes." "Then what about you?" "I happen to live above you," my Asahi said in a matter-of-fact tone. Toru Watanabe almost believed it, thinking that the two of them really happened to live close to each other. Toru Watanabe had already deeply experienced her determination. Miki Kujo's danger of killing people couldn't be stopped. Since persuasion was useless, they could only think of a way together. "Well, senpai, you can go to Shinano to look for a house. I'm renting a house now and I'll return it at the end of the year. I'll go to your place then." "Go to my place? Live together?" "Of course not. What are you thinking?" My Asahi smiled like a successful prank. She looked very cute. Perhaps Toru Watanabe was the only one who had seen her expression. "Then I'll wait for Toru." "Okay." Toru Watanabe also smiled and nodded. My Asahi put down the coffee that she had already drunk, naturally took Toru Watanabe's cup and quietly drank. Toru Watanabe, who had resumed his lazy sitting posture, looked at her delicate face, and her small white ears under her black hair. "By the way, senpai," he remembered something, "will the third years participate in the winter camping?" "No, because most of them have to prepare for the entrance exam." "I really want to dance with Toru." "Senpai, you're also a prospective Tokyo University student. How could you believe that kind of rumor?" Toru Watanabe said. If he really danced with other girls, in a bonfire party full of people, Toru Watanabe suspected that he would be made into a specimen by Miki Kujo. He didn't know if the formalin used by the rich would smell better. Maybe it would even be drinkable. But as a specimen, would he need to drink anything? For girls, no matter how high their education, they will always like romantic things. That's true. Toru Watanabe nodded. The third years are not good at all. My Asahi maintained her posture of holding the coffee, and her flat tone had a trace of complaint. "What's wrong? Is it hard to study? There are only cultural festivals, sports festivals, and study trips. I also want to participate in more activities with Toru." "There are enough activities." Toru Watanabe thought of his fellow villagers who were about to come out of their backsides. Not his fellow villagers from Iwate Prefecture, but his fellow villagers from China. His fellow countrymen in Iwate Prefecture were living a much more comfortable life. The 5 of them could do whatever they wanted in school. They could wander around the fields all day long, and no one would criticize them. During the busy farming season, they didn't even go to class. Instead, they would go to the teacher's house to help plant rice, run the water, catch crabs, and so on. Toru Watanabe looked to the north, in the direction of Iwate Prefecture. November was almost over. After December, he would take advantage of the winter holidays to go back to his hometown for the new year. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.